you'll all get a little notification saying, yep, you're happy with that. And I'm going to just share my screen. Stop. That's the one. Bob this up. This is where the internet dies. Joleen, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Good. Right. Good evening, guys. Welcome to Mantrailing webinar on trailing with Spaniels. Thanks very much for joining us live. You've got me and Joleen Carter on tonight, and we've got special guest Kathryn as well. What I'm going to do is do the welcome of me and Joleen, a little bit of talk about terminology, and then we'll do a little bit explaining, and then Kath's going to join in and explain her knowledge on Spaniels and go from there, and then we're going to do Mantrailing with Spaniels and go from there. So there's a little bit of sections to it, which is why I've asked, if you're going to do questions, just make sure that you try and ask them when it's relevant. If you've got a burning question that's not relevant at the time, just keep it to the end and we'll do Q&A. Gonna go with welcome from me and Joleen. First thing I'm going to say is well, actually no, I'm gonna change the order on that one. We'll do hi me and Joleen, and then we'll explain the mantrailing that we do. So I'll start first because my name's first and I'm Gobby. My name's Kathryn Jones. I'm one of the head instructors for Mantrailing Global. I've been instructing now for
We've lost you a little bit. Kathryn.
Springer, then bred a Springer for Mantrailing, and then got a mounting hound puppy for Mantrailing, and now I live and breathe Mantrailing. So my life has now been taken over by Mantrailing.
Your internet dropped out, Kathryn.
Oh, nuts. What did
we
you
literally got Bavarian mountain hound.
Is that it? Nothing else?
Yeah.
Right. Hold on. Let me escape this. Let me stop sharing for a second. Sorry, guys. The internet here is awful, so hopefully it'll be a bit slower. But I'll go through us anyway. I'm Kathryn Jones. I'm one of the head instructors for Mantrailing UK, now global. I've been trailing for 3.5 years with my Spaniel, and then I've also bred a Spaniel for Mantrailing, and then I've just got a Bavarian mountain hound puppy for Mantrailing. So I decided to go in full throttle with let's get as many dogs Mantrailing as humanly possible. My background is I was a behaviourist for the past 10 years, specialising in aggression and guardian breeds. I am a qualified security dog instructor. I used to train drugs dogs and private security dogs for the private security sector in the UK. And I used to puppy select for working roles. So I've got a background in Spaniels. Absolutely, Spaniels are my life. I've still got 2, and I'll probably always have Springers. I prefer Springers over Cockers. It's just a personal preference. I might get a smack off someone for that one, but I love my Springers. And I've got a couple of German Shepherds and a hound puppy. So anyway, I met Joleen through Mantrailing, and now we're addicts together. But I'll put you up to Joleen.
Hi everybody, hope you can hear us. I don't know if anyone's in the chat could just give us a thumbs up or something so that you can know that you can hear us now.
Well, hopefully, because I've just been chatting.
Yeah,
at least 10 minutes on my own then.
I know, yeah, just make sure. So I'm Joleen. I basically started as just a pet dog owner that got into Mantrailing probably about 4 years ago now, but I started off with German Shepherds. So I have now got a Springer and a Sprocker, and it was like coming over to the dark side. So I learned a lot very quickly, and it was a very steep learning curve. I've been a dog walker and run a pet care company for the last 16 years. So that was my original sort of background, and I've done a lot of sort of just pet dog training and things like that really, but Mantrailing really sort of spoke to me from the German Shepherd side. They love using their nose, and it was something that really benefited my dogs living in central Birmingham at the time. There wasn't much you could do that was getting you outdoors, that didn't include the normal everyday run-of-the-mill church hall obedient stuff, which my dogs just looked at me and they did, but they didn't enjoy it. So that's why I started into mantrailing and scent work. And my Spaniels, I'm not sure I would have made the leap if I was given the opportunity again. But I suppose they make me a better trainer and instructor. For me, it's been really hard work going from my steady, ever ready, easy to read German Shepherd to my crazy, mad, highly distracted, crittering Spaniel, and now my Sprocker is a completely different kettle of fish again. So I'm just like that. Oh my God, why am I doing this? But that's me.
Yeah. Joleen has got 2 awesome dogs. They're proper cool mantrailers. We will kind of preface this by saying we're both mantrailing global instructors, and what we do is sports. So we might have backgrounds that complement that operationally or otherwise, but we are going to talk about sport dogs tonight. And when we talk about things and we discuss things, we come from a background of it being sports. I know there's probably quite a few in here tonight that are operational backgrounds or have doing that kind of thing. What we aren't going to do is comment. If you ask a question that kind of like, oh, it's not operational, we're not going to answer that. We haven't got the skill set. It might be similar information, but it's not the same. And what I would never want to do is say, yeah, do this, and that impact a working dog. So that's just a preface of it. We are sports dog trainers here in the UK, and our knowledge on Spaniels is based on our dogs and what we've seen with our clients. When you're an instructor over here, you attract what you've got. If you've got Spaniels, you attract Spaniels. If you've got Shepherds, you attract Shepherds. And you get clients with all the same problems that you're having, and you go, God damn it, I need to solve this. I can't just wander around hoping for the best. And what we do is we don't find lost people, we find hidden people. When we're talking about sports, we're never going to be, the person's never missing, the person is always somewhere. Either we know exactly where they are, or if we're doing some trailing where the person's decided to walk off, they're in a certain area. So at no point when we're trailing is anybody's life in danger, and that's where we differ from the operational side. So I just want to make sure that that's clear with everybody before we go any further, because it does complement each other, but it's when I'm not going to go around telling people what to do. I'd also like to kind of just dabble in the terminology before we start, because I understand that what we do with the Mantrailing Global is different to what other people might do within other sports organisations, operational organisations. So terminology we might use, if we use the terminology blue line trailing, it means a known trail to the handler and the instructor. It's everybody knows where it is, obviously apart from the dog. The dog never knows where it's going unless it's watched the person hide the whole way. A single blind is where the instructor and the trail layer knows the trail is, but the handler does not. A double blind is where only the trail layer knows where the trail is. You may also hear me interchange trail layer and MISPA. MISPA is just short for missing person, but I don't notice I'm doing it, and it does confuse some people when I go, yeah, the MISPA, no, what's the MISPA? So yeah, trail layer and MISPA are the same thing. Hunting trails is a series of short trails where the dog's really fired up, and we just do little quick short finds to help with drive. You'll probably hear us speak about that. So hunting trails are short trails. When we talk about an intensity start, it's where the dog is fired up at the beginning of the trail, given lots of like encouragement to follow the person, lots of excitement, which is usually the start of any kind of journey with a mantrailing dog within Mantrailing Global as a sport. The delayed start is where the dog sees the person go before they do the ritual, before they put the harness and get ready. And that's what we use within Mantrailing Global. And a scent article start is the dog doesn't see anybody go, there's no fire up, they're just presented with a scent article. And then after every trail we do an intensity trail. After every trail, no matter how short or long it is, we do an intensity trail afterwards as a key reward for the dogs. So if you'll hear us mention these things like intensity trails, with that, if you're not sure as we go along, just ask, just say, Kathryn, what are you on about? Just type it in the chat or just pipe up. But I don't notice I'm just using those terms, and it wasn't until it was pointed out to me the other night, someone went, hold on a minute, I don't know what you're on about, Kathryn. You're saying it as if I know, and I don't know. So I'm just trying to make sure, because we've got different people from a lot of different walks of life, to make sure that we aren't confusing the crap out of you, because I'm very good at doing that. Super. So, sorry, hogging the limelight here a little bit. Right, let me try and get screen sharing up again. If you lose me, Joleen, you'll have to
I'll have to wing it.
You have to wing it. Just keep talking. Super. So the Spaniel breed. I don't know if you want to start with this, Joleen. Do you want me to start with this?
You can go with this one.
I'll throw it in the deep end. So we all know what a Spaniel is. It's usually a small to medium dog, high on life. Crack cocaine and LSD won't slow them down. And they're usually like cord mental. Oh, you've got a Springer Spaniel. My goodness, why would you get a Springer? Or, oh, you've got a Cocker. Oh, they never come back, Cocker Spaniels. And they're usually shown in quite a negative light when people mention them, unless you're Spaniel fanatics like we are. They are obviously bred, literally have a job. Every dog, you know, genetically has had a job to do. And these guys are flushing and sometimes retrieving dogs. They're now pushed into more detection roles within the UK and a lot of times in Europe and actually in other countries now. And there are two versions, and we'll talk about that in a second. When we think about the Spaniel, what they're bred to do, they're not bred like a guardian breed is, or a hunting breed, or even a livestock guardian breed, which would go A to B. So they'll find the scent and follow the scent to the end. You'll see dogs do it. You know, a terrier will flush something and follow the scent on the ground, or you'll see them do more A to B. A Spaniel goes A to Z and checks every letter on the alphabet en route. And that's the way they're designed to do. They're designed to visually see a bird being shot and go, yeah, there's a bird there. Right, I'm going to go and retrieve that. There's no scent A to B at that point. There is a visual, and then they've got to work in on the scent. So when we describe Spaniels and what they're bred to do, they're either bred to go retrieve that bird, and it's visual followed by finding the scent and going into source, which what makes them excellent detection dogs, because that's the skill of a detection dog, is to find the edge of the scent and go into source. Or they were used as flushing dogs, which meant they run as manically as possible within a certain area, within a certain distance. They're quite good at distances. And then to keep going manically until that thing flushes up. Once that thing flushes up, they go, yes, job well done, amazing, I now find the next thing. So they're very good at switching to the next thing. I've done this thing, twitch, I've done this thing, twitch, I've done this thing, switch. And they're like little adrenaline junkies. And that's what they want, is the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing all the time. The bred to not give a shit, to be honest. They just drag you through the undergrowth and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all to them. They will just keep working. They'll get stuck halfway on a hedge, they don't care. So they're very, very tenacious breed, and very keen. Now, this is a positive for some parts of mantrailing, and it's a negative for other parts of mantrailing. So it's working between the two. Joleen, I don't know if you want to talk about the difference between show and working Spaniels.
No, you can do that one.
I'm going to make you do the next slide.
Thanks.
Well, next slide's class, so you'll do one afterwards.
I have to be honest, I don't have a lot of knowledge with show type Spaniels. So my guys that I deal a lot with are either high drive working Spaniels or the pet dogs that people get, and they seem to get those 1 in a million that's absolutely fine, just sort of milling about in life. So I seem to deal with a lot of the two ends of the different spectrum. So I'll let you do that one.
Not all Spaniels are crazy. So when we talk about kind of show versus working, so we have a lot of breeds, we have the distinction between show and working, and the working breeds tend to be compact, sharp, to the point, fast on it, and what deemed more intelligent. They're not more intelligent. I don't think necessarily most dogs are any intelligent other dog. They're just more focused at their task and they're more handler orientated. Whereas show Spaniels in both the Springer and Cocker versions are just as intelligent. They just don't really want to use their brain to please you. They go, yeah, I've seen that. I know what I want to do. I'm going to do this thing. I'm not really interested in you. So the show ones tend to be deemed less drivey or not as smart, but there isn't really a lot of difference. What the difference you've got to do is build the motivation of show. So a show type is generally seen as a lower drive dog and less manic, and a working type is more manic. What tends to happen is people go, oh, I don't want a couch potato, and I'm going to get a working type Spaniel, not really understanding what that means. And proper working type dogs, like dogs that are bred to flush or field trial champion, these dogs that are are bred over time to be the best, do not cope sitting on a sofa being bored. They have to do something. And that's why we get a lot in Mantrailing, because it's a great sport that's on lead at all times. And it's also a great way to work together. The problem is it creates a lot of conflict between the handler and the dog, because the spaniel wants to do it at 2,000 miles per hour without a line on it. And the handler's desperately trying to cling on pure death to actually watch their dog, and they get to the trail and they go, that was an amazing trail, but I have no idea what my dog did on that trail. I just held on for grim death. So you can get a lot of conflict because the handler just doesn't understand the dog, and the dog just doesn't want the handler to be involved. So what I find with spaniels is a lot of conflict with that, and you get that more in the working than the show ones. The show version tend to go, I found the person, what's the point, can we go home and sit on the sofa, I've got other things to do, I've got to speak to Larry over the fence. They're a bit more whatever. When we also talk about the crosses, go for it.
Sorry, or they're just a little bit more amenable, I would say, is that they're very into wanting to please their owner. So you'll find a lot with sort of the pet dogs or the show types that we're talking about, they'll be happy to come and they'll be really happy and they'll do it, but they won't maybe do it at the same gusto or at the same speed that a high drive working dog would, if that makes sense. So they're just a bit more amenable and a bit more clued up and sort of maybe used to their owners sort of telling them what to do or instructing or giving them a cue, because that's more like how they've been brought up. I don't think we're talking about the show dogs that go into the ring. It's sort of just the various in types, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. And then when we talk about Spaniels tonight, we talk about the crosses and other gun dogs. So you'll see, so Joleen's got a Sprocker, which is a Springer cross, it's a working Springer cross a working Cocker Spaniel. You've got Springadors, which are Springer Spaniels cross Labradors, usually both working types. Cockapoos, which can be either type of Spaniel, the show or the working, and it can be obviously the Cocker Spaniel, but crossed with a poodle. Now obviously poodles are gun dogs as well, they're just a different kind of jobby gun dog. They're still retrieving dog, but they're bred slightly different. Hush puppies, which I've worked with a few times, which are Cocker Spaniels cross they cross Beagles or Basset Hounds. They're called hush puppies. Why you would do that, God knows why, but people do it. If someone has a hush puppy on this, I'm sorry. I just think it's a hard work cross for anybody. Let's add more stubborn and drive. Let's make it harder work. Sprudel, which is a Springer cross poodle. They're getting quite popular now. And then you've got to think about their cousins. So if you have anything to do with gun dogs, you've got the curly coat retriever, you've got the Portuguese water dog, you've got the Spanish water dog, you've got the French water dog, which is Barbet. You've got these other breeds that are spaniels that were developed in a different way. So if you think about like lots of animals, lots of breeds will have variations that were bred in certain areas that genetically are slightly different. So like you've got German Shepherds and Belgian Shepherds bred for similar tasks, but different ways. Belgian Shepherds and Dutch Herders bred for similar tasks in different countries. So even though Spaniels are very popular here in the UK, their cousins, the curly-coated breeds, your Bracco, the Spanonis, Labradors, anything that's a gun dog breed, flatcoats, golden retrievers, will trail in similar ways as Spaniels. Spaniels just tend to be a little bit harder to work with because they just don't always care about the handler, and they tend to do it at 4,000 miles per hour. They're getting fast, these Spaniels. So they can tend to be the hard, but they are also by proxy the most popular because they're seen as a really good pet breed here in the UK, which I would argue they're really not for the faint of heart anyway. So, but at the end of the day, they were all bred to hunt or retrieve prey. So whatever they're bred to do, they're bred to use their nose in order to either flush the prey or find the prey that's been shot and bring it back. So they're bred to use their nose, but not an A to B. The main thing you've got to remember with these gun dog breeds is they are not an A to B breed, they're an A to Z, and they will use all the letters on the way. That's the best way to describe them differently. And I call German Shepherds and anything like terriers pointy, anything that should have pointy ears, like the pointy-eared problem. They're very A to B, and they work on the trail quite precisely, whereas Spaniels launch themselves all over the trail. I'm going to introduce Kathryn in a minute, and she's got a absolutely brilliant image to go with her, which it just kind of sums them up beautifully. So I'm going to introduce you guys to Kathryn.
add 2 seconds, sorry, just before
Go.
we go forward. So when we were talking about the Spaniels going A to Z, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking for any source of scent that they're going after. So it's not going to be, I'm going after the green partridge that went to the left. They're going after whatever the freshest partridge is, or duck, or whatever it is they go after, or whatever there is on a shoot, or critter, squirrel, in my case, rats. They're going for whatever scent of a rat it is. So that's why you often struggle when you're in sort of high areas with them, because they're bred to switch to find the prey, and they're meant to do it as easy as possible. Now that isn't always going to be targeting onto, say, the green partridge, like I said. It's going to be, they're going to keep switching to the freshest scent, and that's why you can sometimes also have issues with them in mantrailing, and not issues but just trouble with them in mantrailing. I think, is Jenny put a hand up? She got a question.
You're in charge of that bit because I can't see it. Wait, what's growling going on?
Hang on.
Puppy, don't annoy the shepherd.
I've got no video. Jenny, have you got a question, or is it just a hand? No. No. Okay.
Has anybody got any questions before we go any further? Whistle stop tour of Spaniels. Right, super. I'm going to go on to introduce Kath. So Kath, if you'd like to unmute yourself and introduce you and the misunderstood Spaniel, please.
Okay, so I'm unmuted. Is everybody able to hear me all right?
I can
Thumbs up if you can.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, firstly, thank you for letting me speak on my favourite subject, being Spaniels. A little bit about me. I've been mantrailing now for about 3.5 years, and I've been an instructor on and off due to the pandemic for just over 2 years. I've got 2 working cockers. My eldest is Sky, who is now 11 years old, and I can't imagine life without her, but it was not always that way. I got her at 6 months of age. That's her age, not mine. She was my first ever dog, pet dog, and I live in the Lake District, and I'd visualised getting myself a dog, walking on the fells with my dog running along by my side, taking in all the scenery and getting lots of fresh air and exercise. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. Basically, yeah, Sky is a very driven working line spaniel, and I came very close to rehoming her on a number of occasions. Some words to describe her when I got her: she's fearless. Basically, yeah, that breeding that you've already mentioned. She's bred to thrash her way through the undergrowth, leap over fences and walls. Barbed wire wouldn't stop her, and she'd chase basically whatever she could find. I also knew she was intelligent, fast, but it was that born hunter with that high prey drive and a superior nose that was a complete shock to me. So our walks were very stressful, and they were very lonely. Whenever I let her off, if we went to the beach, she'd be a speck in the distance chasing seagulls. If we went on the fells, she'd be chasing pheasants. And if we went in the woods, she was thrashing through the undergrowth. I didn't see her, and basically I was not part of the equation. So it was challenging, to say the least. I know now that my major problem was that, knowing no better, I allowed her to free hunt, and she would hunt to oblivion, and it's addictive, and she didn't need me. So what I did, basically, I knew she was intelligent. I knew I didn't know anything about dogs or spaniels, so I went out and got myself some training. So we did gun dog skills training. We did agility. That was our saving grace. We bonded and started to develop a connection. But if mantrailing had been around in those days, that would have been, I reckon, the best for the pair of us, because she would have had an outlet for that, using her nose, finding the prey and being rewarded at the end. but she wouldn't have been able to do that on her own. We would have done that together, and she wouldn't have been able to self-reward. There's a saying in the gun dog world, which is those that hunt together stay together. And I do think that is very, very true. Whether you're gun dog working or mantrailing is just the same. Do those things together and you can build up that relationship and connectivity. So when I was asked to give a little talk about something about Spaniels, I thought, yeah, it's this business of Spaniels being misunderstood. When people who've never had a dog before think of getting a dog, they look at Spaniels, they're rather cute looking, or maybe I'm biased, but they're small and people think, oh, they'll fit in with my lifestyle. They may even have read a book about them. There's actually a book called Max the Miracle Dog. Don't know if any of you have ever read it. The ones with Springers probably have. But he's brilliant. He's not like a working line dog, but people who've read about them think, oh yeah, you know, I could have one of them, that'd be great. But then you also get people who've had other breeds of dogs in their life, and then they change to a Spaniel, and they then get the shock of their life. So if you just want to show that next slide, actually, if you can, Kathryn, I've actually come across, oh, I don't know if have you got the picture there or not?
Which picture? You'll have to...
Oh yeah, okay, brilliant. Yeah, so I absolutely love this picture because it sums up the difference between labs in particular and Spaniels. So I've actually come across people who've had labs all their life, and then as they get older they think, okay, well, we need a smaller dog, it'll fit into the house, fit into the car better, it's not as strong. They don't know Spaniels. Spaniels are strong. So they get themselves a Spaniel, and then again, they have the shock of their life. Those pictures there, you can see the top picture, walking with labs. Labs are all circling their owners. Obviously, this is a general view. Not all labs are like that, but in general, they stick along with their owners. And then we've got the same picture underneath, and the Spaniel's nowhere to be seen. I also came across a phrase as well, when I just got Sky, that Labradors are born half trained and Spaniels die half trained, which again, there's an element of truth in that, because Spaniels just kind of live in their own world and do what they like, but you can train them a little bit. So common traits of Spaniels that I think people are unaware of when they get them is they can actually be quite big resource guarders, whether that be guarding food, toys, or people. They want to carry things. That's what they're bred for, to carry things. And if people take those things that they're carrying off them all the time, they can actually start to guard them. And I don't know if Lynn is listening in. I know Lynn's got a couple of Spaniels herself, and she does a lot for Spaniel Aid, rescue dogs. You do get a lot of this happening when, you know, sort of you've got your Spaniels in your home and you've got little kids, and the little kids are taking things off these dogs all the time, and then you can get resource guarding and you get all kinds of problems then with the family. So the best way to avoid resource guarding is not to take the items off the dogs, but praise them for having brought it to them. Fuss them when they get to you, take it off them if they give it to you, and then give it back. So, you know, you can resolve it, but it is a problem with resource guarding. The other thing is OCD behaviour. A lot of Spaniels end up spinning, tail chasing, shadow chasing, and they can get quite frustrated with things as well, vocalising and mouthing. So they are very trainable. But they do get distracted and they have their own agenda. I do say they're very focused, but not necessarily focus on what you want them to do. And I think Jane Dalton, you're probably listening, and I know we've done a lot of training together, and you in the early days certainly used to say, oh, you know, I think Sky's lost focus. And it wasn't a case of that she'd lost focus. I reckoned it was just she'd switched focus to something that she just found more interesting than I wanted her to.
Sounds like a Spaniel.
So I don't know if you can see the chat, but Lynn says that she's here and she agrees 100%, and then Jane says yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I'm not very good at unlike a Spaniel, I'm not particularly good at multitasking. So, yeah, but yeah, cheers for your comments on that. Okay, so the other thing about Spaniels being misunderstood, they're often referred to as crazy Spaniel. And I thought, oh, what does crazy actually mean? So I looked it up in the dictionary. And it says, if you describe someone or something as crazy, there's a couple of definitions, you think they're very foolish or strange. Oh, they're a bit crazy. Someone who's crazy can also be classed as insane, which I don't think they are. But they also, the dictionary mentions about if you can be crazy about something, and that means you're very enthusiastic. So I would say I'm crazy about Spaniels. I'm very enthusiastic about Spaniels. And I would describe Spaniels as crazy about birds, pheasants, rabbits, and mantrailing as well. They do like that, you know, they can be crazy about the mantrailing. They know what we're doing. They want to go and find that person and get their reward. So having said that, the definitions of crazy, not being insane, you do find that, you know, if you ever hear on the news that a dog has jumped off a cliff into the water, most times these dogs are Spaniels. And I would actually say, pardon?
It's probably one of mine.
Yeah, they're the ones who are sort of, you know, chasing after a bird and just throw themselves over the cliff. So you could say that's plain crazy, i.e. insane. So when Spaniels are trailing, they can appear out of control and unfocused. So I think this as well is a misconception. And Jane, again, I'm going to mention this, and I know a few of you have probably seen this video that I've put up sometimes on the Guild, and we call it the Benny Hill Trail. This was a trail that I did with Jane, with my younger cocker, Luna. And it's called the Benny Hill Trail because it was so hilarious when you watched it back. We speeded it up and we put it to the tune of Benny Hill, which was Jane's suggestion, which was superb. But I'm not going to show it, but I'm just going to explain what it was. It was in a semi-urban environment. It's in the village where I live, here in the Lakes. And Luna basically took scent, and then she shot off in the opposite direction to which the person had gone, but unbeknown to me because it was blind. So she shot off in the opposite direction, and there was a little playground. So she whizzes underneath the slide, and I'm sort of trying to do my sort of, you know, line handling. She whizzes under the slide a few times, then she comes back to the scent article. She goes over the scent article, almost jumps off the wall onto the road, but I managed to stop her. She gets on the wall, on the road. She circles round a couple of times. Then she goes across an opening, field opening, circles around that a couple of times, circles around a fence post a couple of times. Then she goes across a little bridge, and then she finds a little area where they were growing some grass with fresh seed that had these traffic cones and cordoned off. Well, she goes around the traffic cones, then she disappears under a massive bush. And then one of Jane's clients, who also has dogs but never used Spaniels before, says to Jane, "Ooh, when do you think Luna will be able to concentrate on the trail and start actually trailing?" I can't remember what it was, Jane, but it was something along those lines, that she just thought Luna was off on one. But Luna most definitely wasn't, because she was just, that's the way that she worked. So people
shall I chip in, Kath?
Just please do.
Yeah, this is a lovely client of mine, and I just need to add, Kath, and remember when you first came trailing and you hated it because it was madness, and then she came back and she got hooked. So I was very relieved. But yeah, it was a brilliant trail, but Luna was all over the place. And this client has got a completely nutty but brilliant border collie, absolutely brilliant. But it's one of the nuttiest border collies you could meet. So she's used to nutty dogs, and she watched Luna and she was like, "Oh, well, you know, when will she it was almost like, when will she get the game and focus and calm down?" And I went, "This is Luna at her best."
Yeah.
And she looked at me and went, "Oh."
Yeah, absolutely.
Won't be looking to get one of those then when she retires. So
she could cope with one, actually. But yeah, I think it was just that expectation that one day they'll grow up and go in more of a straight line, which some of them do, don't they? Some of them really do.
Yeah.
Not Luna.
Yeah. No. And both of mine are like the working line, so you do get kind of that extreme, really. So So yeah, so rather than describing them as crazy or out of control and unfocused, I rather use the words they're enthusiastic, they're fast, and I would say they're fast physically and also mentally. They're quick thinkers, they make quick decisions, they're inquisitive, they're joyous, thorough, because they'll check and double check places for scent, so they'll circle around a few times and then make a decision on which direction to go in. They're multitaskers, so Luna very often will suddenly she'll be trailing and then suddenly she's under a bush, and then she's out of a bush because she's flushed the bird, and then she's back on the trail. But they're also intelligent. That is last but no means least, very, very intelligent dogs. And I'm now going to indulge myself on this story. And Jane, you probably know which story this is going to be, but it won't take me long. I won't keep you any longer than this, but I must.
All right, we've got a few comments once you've done that. So just because people have said a few things, if you do that one,
yeah,
and then I'll just go into the chat and just read through what a few people have said. Just because if we go too far through, it just won't make sense.
Okay. Are you happy for me to just mention this then?
Yeah, you carry on with that one, and then if I'll just jump in and just say what people have said along the way, if that's all right. Just
perfect.
Chatting, or you've been chatting, so.
Okay, so in terms of intelligent, so we did this trail with Sky, my 11-year-old, the first dog, and it was blind, and what we did was there was a fellow trailer, Margaret, she's called, and she has a little poodle called Ted who wasn't trailing. She wanted to take Ted for a walk. She says, oh, why don't we get Sky to trail for Ted? So she took Ted's coat off him.
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because we don't teach dogs to trail for dogs.
Oh.
We don't.
We did do. Oh, it wasn't operational.
Well, we don't teach dogs to do that. That's not Mantrailing Global. So I'm just going to stop you before you go any further with that story.
Okay, so
we teach our dogs to find dogs. We teach our dogs to find hidden people.
Okay. It was a really interesting story.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but it's not linked to what this this webinar is about. It's a webinar is about man-trailing dogs, which are finding hidden people, not hidden dogs. So I'm just going to stop you before you go any further. Joleen, can you read the questions?
Yeah, so I've just got Emma Woolrich has said, yeah, I get owners at classes with Spaniels as family pets that take things off them. I always remind them that they've been bred to do and to swap, drop, etc.
Yeah.
And let them carry on. Teach them a drop, etc., or just get them to carry something. Susan Davies, I've been surprised to find resource guarding of rewards or me while working, or resource guarding my lap or a comfy space of any area of food.
Yeah.
Jane said Luna excels at multitasking. Sky excels at being unpredictable. Your girls taught us both a lot about how to read Spaniels.
Yeah, they did indeed, and continue to.
Yeah. Jules said, we record dead marine animals that turn up on the beach. Briar resource guards these animals and keeps the other dogs away. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Oh gosh, right.
And that's it now. It's right, if we'd gone too far over, it wouldn't have made any sense to.
Yeah, it starts getting a bit confused. That's why I try to keep the questions together. Thank you very much,
Kathy. Okay. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell my story.
Super, thank you. Right, we're gonna crack on now, guys, because we've been on here a while and we want to get some more knowledge in you. So when me and Joleen decided to do this, we really wanted to break down what Spaniel owners or people working with Spaniel owners are going to experience. So we've broken it down into the start, middle and the end of a trail. And we're going to start with kind of obviously the start and talking about the scent inventory and the ritual and those kind of beginning bits. Joleen, I don't know if you want to actually jump in and have a little bit of chat about the ritual we use and the issues that you can get with Spaniels at this start, because I know that you've obviously had two different lights with your guys. River's a really good example at the beginning.
Yeah, so when we're talking about it, obviously we're doing Mantrailing Global stuff, and at the start of our trails we do a scent inventory. So it's where we take the dogs out and we get them to just take in the area and the natural sort of scents that are going to be around at that time. With this scent inventory, we sort of often do a circular motion, whatever we can really, just to give the dogs the opportunity to wind down in the area. Like I said, take the scents that are in the area before we look to start them off to do their job. What is often quite interesting is when you take a spaniel out to do this, and especially if they already know the game, how they react when they come out. If they're overly excited, you might just get a lot of excitement and you might not get a lot of information. So for us, when we're doing a scent inventory, we want them to take in the natural sort of scents that are there. And what we're intending for them to do is, when they're set about their task, their harness and line's been put on, they take the scent of the person they're going to find. They then need to discriminate about where that is within the area to go forward and tell us the direction of travel that that's going to be at. Kathryn's captain, he gives a really clear direction of travel. I like to think of it as a sort of clock face. I walk around a clock face, and my dog's going to give me an exit figure. So if I put my kit down at 6, I'm going to walk around, give my dog the opportunity to tell me. My dog will tell me whether there's 1 or 2 different types of scents there. Often if there's contamination, she can indicate on a couple of different forms of human scent. And then once she's brought in to take the scent of the person she's actually going for, the specific person, she will then look at the direction that scent goes in. Obviously, these are the dogs that aren't just starting to learn the game. They're the ones that sort of understand the game and are going to go forward. What you should often find in that period, that ritual, is either overexcitement because they know what's coming, or there's something massively distracting in the area. So my river is absolutely terrible in any kind of woods, because there's always going to be something else that she could multitask on. And I will always know as soon as I bring her out to do that scent inventory how well a trail could potentially go, as to how distracted she is within that area. Once you then go on, the ritual is it's just literally a walk round, and you're going to get the dog to investigate and, like I said, tell you that direction of travel. The crittering is often one that you're going to get with the spaniels, and especially if I use the term self-employed with River. My girl is 2. I brought her up quite feral, to be fair. She would pretty much go and live off the land, and as much as I do a lot with her, I trained her every day from sort of 8 weeks old. We've done a lot with her. I wanted her to be self-sufficient in certain ways, so I've got a really good bond with her, but I could just let her out somewhere and I don't think she'd be too fussed. She's got way more better things to go and find, and to flush, and to chase, and to stalk, and things like that. So for her, it is very much a game that we have to play together and bond together. We've just had a question from Jonathan. How large a circle would you use for a scent inventory? As large as you possibly can. It depends on the area that you're going into. It depends on what the setup's going to be. Kathryn will probably jump in at any point, but if I'm coming up to an area of, say, somewhere someone's pulled their car over and there's 3 or 4 different junctions, I would make sure that my scent inventory goes around those junctions. The one thing I see a lot with clients is that they seem to tiptoe. As soon as the scent article's put down, they kind of tiptoe around the scent article. And the dog just they don't need to be on the scent to smell it. They can smell it from quite far away. So they then get quite frustrated. So that whole process of getting them harnessed up and things like that can really be an issue with them. So make it as big as you can, depending on what area you're in. If we then switch to, say, urban and it's on a roadside, I probably couldn't do as big a ritual because of just the area that was there. I'd only have papers, things like that.
I'll jump in to join in with and back up Joleen there. The circle, I've got told off to call it a circle now, and I have to keep it in my head. It's to encompass the exits and the potential directions of travel. So that picture there, like Captain's, you can see he's in a car park. There's a guy with the camo trousers.
We can't see the picture. I don't know if you've got to press it again.
What can you see?
There you go. Now we've got it. Oh, back one.
Yeah, so my screen must have gone to sleep, sorry guys. So you can see
That's
that there's a guy with camo behind and there's a road behind. The scent article can't actually see is to the left hand side on that red bit there. So what I'm doing with the inventory here before Kathryn's harness up is I'm doing probably, my premise is if you don't know how big to do it, you normally use 10 meters of line. Don't use that 10 meters, but walk out 8 to 10 meters away from that scent article. If you need a number in your head, that's where you're aiming at. You don't want to be on top of the scent article. You want to be more expanded. And this is really important for Spaniels, because if you don't let them check the environment, you don't let them sniff stuff, they're going to do it at the end of that 10 meters of line on the end of the harness and probably take 3 people out in the process who are watching. So make sure that if you need I need a number in my head because you're that kind of person, it doesn't want to be on top of the scent article. Like Joleen said, people seem to tiptoe around it and just do I've done a circle. It's not a circle. The circle's the best description we can give you visually, but it's also the wrong description because it's about checking all the environment, and it's so important Spaniels check that environment because they're going to do it anyway. If you don't allow them to do it, they're going to just check everything out on the end of the line. Would you agree with that, Joleen?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's literally the issue is it's just such a subjective subject because it depends on where your trail starts. We've also had another question that says how to handle overexcitement when they know what's coming. The dog tries to reverse out of the harness, doesn't want to take scent, etc. Doing sniff exercises without trail works fine, but as soon as we bring the trail back in, everything before we allow her to set off is out the window. Again, for that one, for me, I would probably just do a bigger circle, a bigger ritual around. Try and make it so that it's a bit more fluid. Make it so that you're a bit boring. Make sure that the dog doesn't actually see any of the setup, so it doesn't see you handing over the pots. It hasn't seen the person leave because you've got them out the car before you're just ready. I know we want people to be on time and stuff when we're doing training and things, but for me, I would do it so it's just quite low key. And if the dog is really excited, just keep going round. Just keep walking within the area until they've calmed down before you look to start. Because if you're always starting in that high aroused state, it's not a great mindset for them to think, if that makes sense. And that's not just for Mantrailing, it's with anything. If they're in an over aroused state, and let's face it, it's really easy for a Spaniel to get over aroused. River comes back and her pupils are dilated. They're massive at the end of a trail when she's found somebody, and she's so high, I just about get her to take food. And she won't ever play with a toy because she's just raised all her hormones too much and all her adrenaline and everything too much. I would look to do a larger ritual, a larger scent inventory. Wait till your dog is calm. Maybe take the scent article out of the picture, so to the dog it's absolutely nothing there, there's no way that they can pre-scent, and I would try doing that and see if that works. Kathryn, would you say anything about that?
I would agree with that, and keep circling. If you have to do a big circle and then do 2 or 3 of them, it's okay to do that. What I wouldn't do is be tempted to suddenly drop the ritual out and hope that if you took away some of that excitement that they won't do it. What you'll find is if you try and take that ritual away, even though it's frustrating to you because it's creating that conflict, is the dog just starts picking a direction and isn't thinking. If you do a couple of circles, it sniffs the environment, it bounces around for 5 minutes, he's a pain in the butt spaniel, and then you can harness them and get in the room. You might find actually pre-harnessing is a little bit better with that dog. I did pre-harness Captain for a period of time because when he was about 9 months old, I did that much intensity with him. He was wild and he would just scream and drag the harness. So we started pre-harnessing because it was just easy and trying to tackle him to the ground to put a harness on him. But what we did is we didn't drop the ritual because I want him to check that environment. And what's happened over time and with all the Spaniels that we've seen trailing together and individually is the more you put a little bit of sensibleness in the beginning, the better trailers they are. It can be really tempting to take away.
And you're dropping out again.
Oh, what did you hear? What did you not hear?
We kind of with your hands in the air.
Hold on. Does it keep dropping my screen sharing? Right, I'm gonna come on to this.
It's just occasionally drops your
It's it's me. Sorry guys, let me just turn my video off. Super, can you hear me? Right, super. I've got a couple that, yes, I can hear somebody, and I've got a couple that I can't hear each other, me. Okay, let me get rid of these notifications. Oh, bog off. Super. Joleen, I can't hear you at the moment. Oh no, Joleen's frozen. God damn it. Am I back? Jolene's frozen my end. Is she gone for everybody? Is she?
Hi, Kathryn, it's Emma. You're fine. I think it's just Joleen that kept freezing.
Oh, Emma's now. Sorry, Emma. Jolene's died out. Hold on a
She's
second.
gone, yeah.
It's back in.
Although your picture's gone.
I've turned my picture off because it tends to make my
Okay.
signal better. So picture's gone intentionally, but everything else gone. Let's just see if Joleen jumps back on.
Okay.
Bear with technical difficulties, guys. Super. I'll ask questions as we go along as well. Hebe finds messing at the start very frustrating, and oh, it's gone again. Headstrong and needs to get on the job. Too much messing, and she would end up have to be prepared at the start. So yeah, you have to be prepared. If you need a spaniel, you need to get the stuff over to people. They need to have the reward. It's not standing there with the dog going, oh yeah, I've got my pots all minute, I go back again and come backwards and forwards and messing about. It's get out there, let them do the inventory. If you need to pre-harness them and get them done. But this isn't, you know, it works for every dog. We've done it removing the inventory, we've done keeping the inventory. It's a lot of it's a bit trial and error, but don't be tempted to change it every session. Go, oh well, he's not doing it, so I'm going to do this and do this. Like any dog training, if you're going to change something, change it for a period of time, for a consistent amount of time, and then see what the effects are. If you've got improvement, work with it. If you haven't got improvement, then think about changing, but you need to do it for a period of time first. I'm hoping Joleen will jump back in. Technology. My oldest cock often gets really annoyed, not overexcited, just annoyed by the inventory, and she's already said mid-decision before we get anywhere near it. Is it better to wait inventory when she's fighting? Only go in one direction. Yeah, you've just got a very keen dog, and again, I'd be tempted. The problem comes if you drop the inventory when you try and do double blinds or anything that's blind, because you don't know. And you'll be surprised how much your cues, your bodily cues, affect the trail. And the second you stand there going, I don't know, the dog sniffs it and goes, oh, I don't, and then tries to pull, you'll find that you fall flat on your face because the dog doesn't know. And it always falls apart with double blinds. I speak from experience because I've messed with it, I've done bits and bobs, and I've seen it on enough occasions. So yes, it works. Some dogs take it out, that's fine. But other dogs it doesn't. So just be wary of suddenly going, oh well, that's the problem. It's not the problem. Your dog's learning the game, they're learning how to do it. So it's one of those things. Mine gets annoyed from the ritual, but working from the car, wants to go along the trail rather than explore other areas. Yeah, some dogs are just more keen on it, and that's fine. But again, it will come a cropper when you do more complex trails, it will fall apart. Jolene's Zoom's dropped, so just waiting for her to jump back in. Sorry guys. So yeah, it's about give and take and adaptation, but if you're going to adapt anything, please do it for a period of time, not just change it every session. I'm hoping my video will work now. Yeah, and pre-harnessing is a good one with spaniels. I would rather put the harness on the car with them, or even at home if they're not going to eat it, and travel with it on rather than doing it in the ritual if that's becoming a big frustration, rather than dropping out the main ritual. Lindsay Taylor's a good one. Finding out, ensuring their zoomies are done elsewhere does help at the start. If your spaniels sometimes have had a good run somewhere, depending on what they've chased on that run. But yeah, just be potentially. Oh, very good on your nose. Thank you. Sorry, a bit of feedback there. Someone said, I've heard trial dog handlers let them know 45 minutes to get the energy out before they can think straight. Yeah. Some dogs need a bit of run before doing a task. Some people, a bit like ADHD kind of behaviours, and that you need to burn some other hormones in order to work. That's absolutely fine. Misspring for Spaniels, Kirsty. We'll have to do another webinar on that one. Cocker still goes straight ahead even when walking in a circle. Then you need to talk about foundations, which we'll talk about in a bit. With that Sandra, if he goes in a straight line. Pre-harness go out in the car makes loads of difference at the start. Yeah, it can with Spaniels, and pre-harnessing can be one of those things that's good. You can pre-line if you need to. I don't advise it because it can be hard work, but you can do different things in order to affect the starts. I think one of the main things you've got to think about with Spaniels is, yes, they know what they're doing. Once they get to the game, they know what they're doing, and they're going to pick a direction, drag you in it. It's a nice headstrong dog, great, work with it, absolutely love it. What you also don't want to happen is that you end up resenting them because they're keen. Yes, it is difficult to start. I know it's annoying, and you're like, oh, I'm getting dragged around again. Your dog wants to do the job and enjoys doing the job. Don't resent it because of that. Enjoy it, love enthusiasm, think happy thoughts when you're doing it, and don't get frustrated, because the more frustrated you get, the more frustrated your dog will get. And they pick up on that early frustration. Sorry, I've just turned my camera off again because I can see the internet's dropping a little bit because I got a bit blurry. So do apologise, it's living back at the end of nowhere. So yeah, that's the start of the ritual and bits and bobs. We'll just talk about taking scent. So it's come up a little bit with bits and bobs here when the Spaniel's taking scent. Spaniels can be real naughty for pre-scenting the scent article. Now, I know with some methods of Mantrailing, it's something that we encourage, but what we don't want is pre-scenting in what I'm describing here isn't us offering the scent article and then taking the scent. It's them sniffing it for no reason and then trying to shoot off in a direction. So you might find that some of these dogs that are very pushy on the ritual and just want to get going have probably sniffed the scent article. It is worth taking the scent article out of the ritual, having the place down there by the mist when they leave, and then as they're hiding, you pick up the scent article and just take it out of the circle. So you remove some of that visual and try and get the dog to focus on just checking out the environment. Part of that can help. So part of removing the scent article can help with that. The other reason removing the scent article is if you've got a dog that's a bit resource guardy and a bit hyper focused, it stops them hyper focusing on that visual of a scent article. I don't see it actually as much in Spaniels, but I see it a lot in golden retrievers and flat coat retrievers. They are very picky uppy dogs and want to carry, and a lot of them will hyper focus in on the scent article and not do the ritual because they're busy staring at it, trying to pick it up. Because the Spaniel will often pre-scent it, they'll kind of come sniff it, you'll do the ritual, the dog will try and start, and then you're like, right, take scent, you'll use your sniff command, and the dog won't sniff. Oh, Jolene's back.
Sorry guys, I don't know what's happened, but my internet's dropped out, so I've had to join you via my phone. So hopefully it'll work.
I'm having technical difficulties, which is why my screen's she's gone again. Oh no, she's back.
Hang on, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Hopefully that's right then.
Yeah, I've turned my camera off because my internet keeps going wobbly as well.
Okay.
Just answered a few of the questions up until Rachel's iPhone, and I just started talking about taking scent.
Okay.
Potentially what you said before, like removing the scent article and the dogs are pre-scenting. And you got to the point where so it's common, and it happened a lot with me with Captain, was you come out and do the ritual, dogs sniff the scent article because I wasn't concentrating or because I wasn't doing a big enough scent inventory, I wasn't doing a big enough area, and then what happened was he sniffed this article. When we came to start trailing, we've got him harnessed and everything, I put a line on him, I've gone to go sniff, I point at the scent article and he's gone, yeah, whatever, let's go. I at this point don't know he's taken scent. I assume he has because he's like, it's that way, idiot. But I've got no confirmation he has. And the times that I've just let him go, he has gone off, and done other jobs and things. So it becomes a sniff, sniff, sniff. Oh, you just sniff. And I've seen handlers get quite frustrated by that. So removing that scent article so they can't pre-scent it, or just being a little bit more ahead of yourself and thinking ahead. Don't get out the car and hand the pot to somebody being, oh, I forgot my eyes and I got this and I got that. Get a little bit more prepared, and stopping them getting involved with the scent article can make a big difference to that start. Not every dog, not every Spaniel's the same. You'll get 15 Spaniels, will all be different. You get 15 Springers, will all be different. But it can make a difference, and just being more sensible about it. If a Spaniel
Spaniels really live in the moment, so they don't actually have a lot of impulse control. So outside of Mantrailing, impulse control can be a really good thing. So River at the start now, she sits and she's actually calm to be harnessed, and everything like that, because she knows if she sits, she's going to get where she wants to go. But it's taken a lot of time outside of and away of Mantrailing in order to get her to do that. So when we are discussing Mantrailing, you might be better to do some stuff away from the actual the excitement, the game, the day that you're trailing, to put that in and focus that into your training to help you go forward, if that makes sense.
So a few questions or a few comments. Jules has put, if Briar has had a normal exercise in the morning, she doesn't do so well in evening trails. Yeah, not every dog needs a blast on the field. Some dogs do, some dogs don't. I don't tend to walk mine before Mantrailing because I like the little bit of the chaos, but that's just a personal preference.
Recording progress. Right, I'm in.
Loading, just unmute yourself. Yeah, Joleen, unmute yourself when you saw it. It's probably because your internet's jumped back on. My Springer picks up a scent article and carries it a few yards. This is coming from iPhone. And drops it. It's common. Yes, big common issue in the gun dog breeds. So there are a couple of ways to solve that one. I've popped the scent article into a glass jar. This was actually brought to us by another head instructor, Jerry Moss, and I think it's a really good. Don't just pick any jar, like a proper Kilner glass jar, because it locks the scent in. Pop the scent article in that, shut the lid. When the dog comes to take scent, you just literally open up the jar. What it does is puffs that scent out. Jerry will probably going to correct me if I'm wrong. Puffs that scent out. Dog can take a good sniff. You can shut it, and the dog can't grab the scent article. Just be cautious using anything with glass, please. Kilner jars are fairly hefty, and they're fairly heavy duty, but at the end of the day, they are glass. But it helps puff the scent, because when you open it, it goes. You can do the same with plastic bags, but it's just not as effective. I tend to, as the instructor, grab a scent article. A dog comes to scent, I've got it in my hand, plastic bag on the outside, just a bit of scent on opening, and we literally go sniff, dog takes scent, and I take the scent article out of the way before they can grab it. It does take a bit of timing and a bit of effort. And if you have got a dog that snatch grabs, so I know we're talking about Spaniels, but if you've got something like a Malinois that really grabs it, just be cautious doing that kind of thing. But what you want to do is interrupt that behavior rather than allowing it to continue to happen, because what tends to happen, and I see this a lot in gun dogs, and we will talk about conflicting jobs, but a conflicting job is if you've got a gun dog trained Spaniel, well, I mean gun dogs, I mean gun dog trained, they will go, I pick it up, and they pick it up and they go, right, who am I retrieving it to? It's not you, because I need to take it to somebody else. And they have a little moment where they go, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it, and they have a carry on, take it to person, or they drop it. I know that there's Amy on, whose gun dog trained Spaniel does this. He used to pick this an article up and he'd look at her and go, oh, I thought I was supposed to retrieve it or trail it. And he'd have a little moment where he went, ah! Then he'd carry on trailing. Jerry's just popped in with the Kilner jar, and it's quite good. The Kilner jar is a quick fix during training. It's not a replacement. It is to help break your dog the habit, which I didn't explain very well, break the dog habit from picking up the scent article. Any dog should learn to just sniff it. Doing training at home is important if your dog is picking up the scent article all the time. It becomes a choking hazard, so we want to get rid of it pretty quickly. Also placing the scent article high, putting it, if you've got a fabric scent article, putting it high, or if the dog's at that level, using transfer scent can help reduce dog picking up scent article. It's quite good. My Springer can be so quick on the scent, I often miss it, and I think he's got it, and I go on trying to point where he gets frustrated. Yeah, really common. Jolene's gone out again. I've asked Joleen to answer the question, but she's dropped out again. It's a really common thing for the Spaniels to kind of like just run over the scent article. What they're going to do is making mistakes. And what you want to do is blue line trailing at that point. You don't want to let them go miles off the trail. You need to slow them down at the beginning and bring them back. Do your big scent inventory, get them in, get the scent. And when you go to set off, don't just let them tear ass over the scent article. Slow them down. If you need to, just grab from the harness, grab the collar, and just stop for a second. Don't get the harness on like, let's go, 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 go. Let's just have a moment to pause and then point out the scent article. Place the scent article in a novel way so that it's not just on the floor looking, oh yeah, I've sniffed it. Move it around so the dog does do it. Or what we've already talked about, take the scent article out of the ritual and then bring it back in hand or drop it in front of the dog so they go, oh, the scent article, and they actually want to investigate it. But again, at home training can help. Sorry, Joleen, you're back again.
Yeah, I'll have to be on my phone, guys. Apologies, my internet at home just keeps dropping out, which is just very unusual. So I'm back now. Hopefully I'll be able to see everything.
Right, I've just someone having a conversation from the UK. I'll be the odd one out from the USA. I run a German Whitehair Point. I love a German Whitehair Point Mantrailing. The similitudes are too remarkable. Yeah, they're just mad cousins, aren't they? Crackhead on speed. Do you pre-harness prior to calls? Do you have to try him flush birds? I know no birds means find the man. Pretty funny to watch him to point way back to work and pre-sent the article. Oh, you do? No, I thought you asked if I do. Yeah, so you will have to, I should imagine, because you've got operational dog by the sounds of it. It's the dog should know the difference. One of the reasons we do the ritual on Mantrailing is so they know they're Mantrailing, and when they know they're doing other jobs, it's absolutely fine to do other jobs. We do talk a little bit at the end about different other jobs that Spaniels might do and how that will affect their Mantrailing. You can get plastic kill in the jars on it on Amazon, brilliant. Yeah, super. Right, let's crack on. You got anything to add about the start, Joleen?
To be perfectly honest, I'm going to leave that with you because mine dropped out, so I'm not sure where you've gone with it. So if we leave that there, and because and we'll move on if that's all right.
Right, super. Let me just screen share again. We've got my nice PowerPoint time on. Not that is that relevant at this point. Super. Right, let's talk about the middle of Mantrailing. The trail. So, negatives. When we talk about negatives, I'm going to start with negatives, Joleen, and then I'm going to use the casting. When we talk about negatives, we talk about a behaviour that says there is no scent there, or I'm not going to follow that scent. It is not a negative, like it's a bad behaviour. It's our perception is a word used to say that their dog is not going to take that trail, or is not taking that scent, or the scent isn't there. Remember, we don't know where scent is. We actually don't know how dogs perceive scent well. We can't study it in the way properly we want to. So it's all a bit of, we assume this is happening, and the science is catching up all the time. It's amazing. So Spaniels generally aren't good at giving negatives. They'll tend to carry on 200-300 meters, following just on a merry chase, or the trail was 300 meters back, or the turn usually was 300 meters back, and you're busy holding on going, yeah, well, I think the dog's trailing, but I haven't got a clue because absolutely nothing has changed. What you need to do with the Spaniels, teach them to give a negative. And by what I mean by doing that is this blue line trailing, where everybody knows where the trail is, where you know where the turn is, and also understanding where the wind is. So if you've got a trail and it goes in a straight line and turns right at the end, and your wind is coming from the right hand side across to the left, what will happen is that dog's more than likely to turn left on that trail. It is more than likely. I'm gonna just actually come off screen sharing so I can show you visually what I mean. So if you've got a trail that goes this way, it's nice and straight, and well, I hope this is right for you guys, it goes this way, so the trail is doing that there, but the wind is coming across this way. What's going to happen with your Spaniel is going to go, because they will follow air scent to the edge and then eventually go, oh, I lost that somewhere, and then come back in. What we want to do when we do Mantrailing is teach them to go, that's loads of air scent, but the stronger scent's coming this way. I'm going to go that way, and give a negative. And a negative behavior can be one of many different things with Spaniels, but it tends to be, and people can tell me if it's wrong, it tends to be a slight head lift, a changing speed. That doesn't mean they suddenly stop and slow down. I mean, literally, you go from being dragged to just slightly jogging. I just think about Reef.
That's my dog.
Yeah, Reef, her Sprocker, like the only time he's given a negative, really, he does tend to turn on the spot, but you have to be really quick. And they will maybe give like a head tilt and diff bob. They're very subtle to work, Spaniels. They're incredibly subtle, and the reason we want to know where that trail is, we want to know what the blue line is, so that when they do veer off and they start going, we can say, right, the wind's blowing this way and we're likely to get kind of a rough back scent drift. You don't know because we're not puppy, you stop chewing that under the chair. So puppy chewing the bone of the chair. We know where it ends, so that we can, as handlers, to some degree influence how the dog works. What we're not doing is stopping dead and going, oh, you can't go down there. What we're going to do is slow down and try and watch that dog give a negative and look for that behavior. If the dog slows down a little bit or looks right, we're going to go, yeah, that's a negative, let's move, and try and interpret dogs' behavior, because that's what we're doing with Mantrailing. We're interpreting dogs' behavior. So we're trying to give an opportunity that they can communicate to us and that we can learn it. Spaniels will follow scent miles and miles and miles off a trail. If it's a windy day, you're done for. And you really need to spend time doing those blue line known trails so that you can read your dog as it works, and you can know where the trail is and where it isn't. You can know where the scent concentration is or isn't, so that you can keep working for those different things. But it's another one is a good trail to do is split starts. I've got Joleen on my back. A video off. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Technology.
My word, this isn't going well tonight.
Sorry, guys. We'll get there. So from the moment you start about split starts, thank you, Logan. So split starts are two people leaving from the scent article. There's two fresh trails. One is a direct trail, one is a decoy. And then split trails are where two people walk out so far and then they split off. They don't have to split at the same point, but they don't follow each other. The trail does turn in two different directions, or the trail goes one way and the decoy trail goes the other way, is a better description. Those kind of trails mean that you can give exact points where the trail has ended or trail has changed, and we can teach them to follow the trail we want, or teach them to investigate the other trail and then come back to where they should be. We're not going to stop a Spaniel doing Spaniel things investigation, but what we want to do is make sure that they do kind of stick to the trail to some degree. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be, kind of so we can read it. But those can help make the dogs make the right decision on those kind of giving those negatives. But when we mean negatives, we mean behavior that that allows us to interpret that the trail is not there. It's usually things like a head lift, a head turn, a quick, what I call a boomerang turn. The dog goes down and goes, nope, and then suddenly turns on a sixpence, comes right past you, and you go, ah, on the long line, and you usually get flipping your shoulders joint before that a joint. Captain My Springer actually does a really cool negative. So he pees. If he pees once, he's just peeing. If he pees twice within a 30-second period, it's a negative. So he'll go so far on the trail, have a pee, have a sniff, go a bit further. If he pees again, he usually goes, yeah, this is not my trail, and he comes back up. And that's something he's developed in the last 6 months. So that's quite a cool negative he does. Joleen, have you got anything to add to that?
No. I just think Spaniels are really quick to make decisions, so the negatives can often come really quickly, but because they're in the moment and they're in the movement, they will keep going, like you've said. So for a Spaniel, it could just be a head flick, like you've mentioned, and for the handler, you have to kind of note that and just be a little bit more observant of the body language, I would say.
Videos and more videos.
Yeah.
Video everything. That tends to be your best thing with Spaniels, because you won't get time at the time to look at them. you've got to be able to process them. We will talk a little bit further on about how to do a little bit more with that, but that's a different section. I want to just get on to casting. Do you want to talk about casting, Joleen?
So casting, when we're referring to it, is where the dog does a circular movement, depending on the extension of your line to try and find scent. It's often if they've sort of just gone too far too quickly or took a wrong turn, they could look at casting. The clients that I sort of trail, some of them cast loads, some of them cast a lot. They'll go too far, they'll cast to try and find it again, they'll pick it up and they'll go. It's normally because they're just going quite fast. Like I said, they're in the moment, they're going quite fast. And it's pretty much, it's kind of like a negative, but it's in the movement. So if you don't know what casting is, it's a little bit like lunging a horse would probably be the way I'd describe it. I don't know if that's right terminology. They just sort of change direction and swoop back around on you. And they can sometimes go in the opposite direction as well. It can also sometimes be really quick circles, and especially if you're working in sort of dense environments with lots of environmental stuff, you can get really tangled around trees. So if you've ever done any off-path work, any off-piste work through the middle of lots of shrubbery, hedgerows, trees, etc., because they're quick thinkers, they will often go, oh, it's here, no, it's there. And you'll probably get quite wrapped up because they will just sort of go. And you can get quite tangled. So for rescue, I wanted to speak about casting because it's what I see the most in the Spaniels. It's not every Spaniel. Some Spaniels trail and they're really nice lines out. Mine have started to do it a little bit more now, and I think it's to do with the weather, the weather and the wind picking up at the moment. I think they lose the trail and then they look at casting to try and re-find it. So if we were looking to sort of troubleshoot this behaviour, then we would allow them to cache to try and find it. If they don't do it within maybe one circular motion around you, then I would look to reel in your line. There's really no point of them constantly doing this circling around to try and find it. I know other instructors might say different things, but if a dog is really quick to get frustrated, it really isn't good to allow them to keep doing that spiraling motion, because they're just going to get in this frantic thing that they can't find the scent, and it's the job they want to do. So for me, I would look at sort of shortening my line and maybe working closely with my instructor and doing the blue line trails again if your dog casts a lot, and if they're losing the trail a lot, do blue line trails and bring your dog back a little bit onto the trail and work with your instructor. Like I said, I think a lot of the time it's just because they're going quite fast. They'll sort of head off in a direction and then go, oh, I've lost it. They sort of move first, think second, or my Spaniels do. So that can always be a difficult one. But yes, so I would look at doing some blue line trails if your dog is struggling with casting, but it's quite natural. It's quite natural for them to do. A lot of breeds do it, but Spaniels seem to do it with a bit of extra flair, I'm going to say. So yeah, for that one, just keep an eye on it and just work closely with your instructor, and don't let them just go frantic, especially if they're quite high to excite, if that makes sense, high to arouse. I think Davina's just said that a shorter line makes mine circle more. Yeah, I think with the Spaniels, there's no set rule with the lines. Both of mine guys trail really differently. River isn't that, she doesn't cast that often, but she will cast. But I've noticed it recently trailing over the winter. Like I said, she casts a lot more if it's a windy day, and especially in open areas, and that's where she will tend to cast. So I work with both Kathryn to instruct mine, and also Jerry Moss, who's on here, I think. I just speak to those guys, and it's just tips that they give me as well. But looking at clients' dogs, I've noticed where we've tried different types of things, and some work for some and some work for others. If you've got a really, I'm going to say Carol with Georgia, and I'm sure she won't mind. Carol with Georgia. Georgia is like high on life. She gets out of the car, she's high on life. She opens her eyelids, she's high on life. So absolutely everything is excitement. So when she's doing a trailing, she wants to get there as quick as she possibly can. It's all exciting, it's all frustrating. And then if we allow her to do these massive casting, because she's going so quick, she'll come off the trail, she'll lose the scent, and then she'll whip round into this massive big lunge, and poor Carol will go with her. So for Georgia, it isn't sort of a good training perspective to leave her just constantly doing circles around to try and find the scent, because basically they've lost it. So yeah, Davina says she gets very dizzy. So yes,
Joleen, it links to what you're saying is the Spaniels OCD. If they start circling, they continue circling and circling and circling and some dogs can get stuck in it.
Yeah,
they stop casting, they just start running and just doing busy things. So it's something to watch. Sometimes they're working and sometimes they just don't know what to do, so they're just doing spaniel things, which involves running around in circles at high speed, usually taking their handler out at some point. And yeah. We've had many a spaniel to a shin. Oh, that's amazing.
So yes, so for me, it's just so play with your line, have a little look, look at reading your dog. The spaniels, for me, it's taken me ages to try and learn to read my spaniels from my shepherd. But yeah, just sort of for me, what works with my girl is just shorter line and bringing her back further down the trail so that she picks up the scent again. Thankfully, she's not too OCD, not about that anyway. She's OCD about rats, but yeah, not about that. So should we talk about on and off the trail?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Do you want to start with that, or do you want me to start with it?
You can go with that one and I'll check the chat.
Yeah, super. On and off the trail. So we were talking before about negatives and casting. Spaniels, when they get on off the trail, it's very hard to read generally. The only difference you tend to see is when they have on off the trail and crittering are very similar behaviors. They've gone like a small seam time down the trail, and then all of a sudden you've had either a moment where the trail's paused and they've carried on. Now they haven't stopped pause. I mean, what I mean by pause is the wrong word then. Pause is that there was a slight slack in the line when you had a moment to take your breath and then you were dragged further on. That is a moment your dog has potentially made a decision to swap to something else. And they have now gone, oh, there was a pheasant here 15 minutes ago. I got more opportunity to find that present. So that can be one of those things that you kind of get a switch in it. It's very hard to read. And again, it comes down to a lot. We talk about foundations with spaniels, foundations, and then some more foundations, which we will explain a bit further on. It's that change in speed, or what we have actually, Joleen's dog River, I don't know if you want to explain River, when she changes to crittering, her tail goes wild.
Yeah,
which has changed recently.
The next bit, so if you carry on for that one,
so
I'll do after this.
Oh yeah, we got crittering, yeah, super. See, we're really well organized, you can tell, guys. Keep dropping out. In that moment of hesitation is them just before they commit to that excitement, and it's real subtle. And with spaniels, I don't tend to watch them so much. I tend to go by feel. Captain's that fast and I am being dragged along behind him that I can't always watch him. I'm usually trying not to get killed. And we did some brilliant trail actually. We were with Joleen, we were with another instructor, and we trailed through a load of really high ferns. Like Jolene's quite a bit shorter than I am, and they dwarfed you, and they were up to like my eyeballs. And we're running trails. I can't see Captain. All I can see is like Jurassic Park, is these ferns moving in front of me. It was amazing. And all I could do was feel him. Now I have no idea if he was on off the trail by his body language, because I couldn't flip and see him. I knew he was on off by his trail by the way he was pulling, and I knew the moment he switched to another animal, because I felt the like, oh, it's an animal. pull, which is different to his proximity, which is a steam train 4-wheel drive. So a lot of feel can make a big difference, and that's when we talk, we talk about casting and line handling, and we will talk further about line handling. Your communication with your dog is that line, and it's really important to not only read your dog visually, but also be in tune with your spaniel, which is a hard thing as a spaniel owner, because you're very frustrated by the fact that they want to go 9,000 miles per hour on the trail. Right, have you got anything to add to that, Joleen?
No, I think that's fine. I lived that. It was the best, sort of one of the best days trailing, because prior to that, so I've been an instructor for about 2 years, and prior to that I was just a pet dog owner. So for someone to say to me, oh, you should be able to feel it in the line, and I'm there trailing, like, I can't feel any difference, there's nothing going on here. And then literally I had I could see, but I just couldn't see my dog. Those ferns were literally above my head, and I've got some photos that I use for marketing and stuff. And that was the only time that I actually had to A, trust my dog, B, I couldn't get involved, because sometimes you can overthink your trails and get too involved, and C, like, I literally had to go on the line, and it was the only day that I've really felt the consistency and the difference in the line. But yeah, it was a really good day of trailing. So if you ever get the opportunity to trail anywhere with high ferns or high shrubbery, then definitely go and do that with your spaniel. It's really good for your line handling, because that you will definitely feel the difference. Can we move on to crittering? Conscious of the
carefully, if you're going to do that, you can't see your dog, please don't.
Yeah, don't kill.
Go on, Joleen.
Yeah, don't kill yourself or anything. Take it steady. But yeah, it's a really good way of the line. Crittering, I'm really glad I've come on to this subject. It is the number one bane of my life.
Just explain what crittering is, what we describe crittering as before.
So when I say crittering, I mean switching to another animal. So another animal, probably another scent, another form of distraction. So whatever your dog is distracted by, so say for instance you work in urban mainly and your dog loves food, it could be the fact that it swaps to food that's been left or dropped on the floor. For me, I mainly talk about it to animals. Animals are the bane of my Mantrailing journey. Reef, not so much, who's my new sprocker. River, oh god, I don't know why I bother half the time. River is the eternal task. It has to be on her terms, and she will get to her MISPA when she's checked out other bits and pieces. She never used to be that bad, but a few things happened on trails and stuff, and at the moment I think she's gone a bit self-employed outside of trailing. So now she just thinks, oh, well, I'll have a go over here, and we'll see over there. And oh my God, there's a bird, and we get a bit of pointing. So yeah, so for crittering, I wanted to talk about it because a lot of the time they can just sometimes look like it's the same intensity, or that they're still doing their job, which is to find the person that you sent out for them. But the little monkeys have just swapped onto something that's more intriguing. So you think about what that could be for your dog, and that could be your crittering. So for River, it's quite a good one, apart from the fact that I've noticed it's just changed. Her body language is ever changing for trailing. So when River was trailing her human, the first thing I started to spot was her tail. So when she was going after human scent, her tail was like an indicator. Tick tock, tick tock, tick. It kind of hung low like that. Not low like, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but not low as in I'm scared, just sort of below the body line. And it was tick, 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 like an indicator. If she's going after a critter, it's high, and I can't even do it. It's just ridiculous. It's the vibrate wag that we get. So that was the one thing that I spotted with River. And I've had to do a lot of work outside of Mantrailing in order to know what her body language was when she was going after an animal. So I took River to a field, a secure field, and I just let her off, and I just stood at the bottom of the field and I watched her traverse and quarter this field, and I viewed her head height was the next one. So when she is on human scent, after the scent, she is about 1 inch, 2 inch off the floor. When she's following animal, she's actually really close to the floor. So that was another one for me to observe while we were trailing. The other thing is the breathing. And now I'm going to admit this because I haven't spotted this yet. But Jerry always tells me that her breathing changes. And I'm not sure if it's just because I'm too flustered with my line handling that I just haven't spotted her breathing. So apparently her breathing changes. So I need to video my trails and keep an eye on that. So for you guys going out now, be really keen if you do some trails over the next 4 weeks or something. If you find any of these on your dog and you observe any of these, drop me a message back and let me know if any of them sort of ring true to your dogs. Tension for River, like I said, there's tension all the time with her. The only thing I get sort of when she goes on to critter, she gets it more complacent. It's a more complacent type of dump, 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 thuddy type of tension, thuddy type of pace. When she's on her human, it's not as predatory. It's not stalking, but she kind of stalks quickly when she swapped to critter, whereas if she's going after her human scent, it's not as stalky, if that makes sense.
There's a slight change in the air of energy, isn't there? There's like an increased hum when she goes, "Ooh, birds," and yeah. There's not a lot of change to her, but you can see it, and I hope that you can kind of feel the. I'm sorry, guys, if you have videos for stuff because he hates videos. Yeah,
she goes just a bit stiffer, if that makes sense, like a bit. So that's what happens to her. What I had to do with her is because she was just such a nose, and it was really ruining my Mantrailing journey. I made the decision to just trail urban with her. I was like, right, you little, we're going to urban. There'll be no distractions there. She's not a big foodie. So I knew that wasn't going to be an issue. She's not really into people. She hasn't got any sort of things with dogs or anything like that. So I made the effort to go to urban. Now, the one thing with urban is you do get limiting distractions, but it's a lot harder for the handlers. You have to really be on the ball with your line handling if you swap to urban and you haven't done urban before. You have to really be mindful that you're trailing beside roads or down sort of alleyways. You're not really sure, you can't see what's really coming. So for that, it's a little bit harder to get sort of your negatives as well, and especially if you think about how the wind and things are going to move in the environment around buildings, things like that. If you look at trailing down a road and there's a building on your left hand side, if you look to take a left turn and the wind is coming straight ahead of you, your dog could potentially just go straight out into the road. So for an urban setting, they're great in one way because you get rid of all the environmental distractions, but it's also loads harder for the handler, and it's harder to get those negatives as well. They also can't really cast in an urban environment, so again, a lot of the dogs struggle with that, and a lot of the Spaniels, especially if they're used to working longer lines, they have to then get used to having a shorter line in urban. And like I said, that casting, if I'm on the side of a road, I can't have a cast, so a handler has to get a lot more involved with that. Rural is easier in trailing, I suppose, in terms of for the handler, for line handling in some ways, if we've just put it into that, but not for critters. What I did, which I am kicking myself now, is I concentrated on trailing so that I could get to learn her body language. We moved to urban. She's a fantastic dog in her own little right. It's just got to be worth it to her. She's just sassy is how I could describe her. So now I'm going back into more rural. I'm struggling. We did have an incident in urban where she was bitten by a rat. So now we just urban and critter for rats in urban areas. So if I was to do any conservation work. She'd be the #1 rat detection dog ever right now. So for us, we're going back to doing hunter trails. So when we said hunter trails, we're going back to high intensity, sort of like 100 or 200 meter trail broken down into 3 or 4 bits, with lots of rewards along the way. So 3 or 4 rewards along the way for a hunter trail for us. So she gets real quick, instant hits, and real quick succession, so that it's a quick fighting for her, that she hasn't got time to think about the environment and things like that. Hunter trails work really well for her. You could also look at doing intensity trails as well, and delayed start trails. So the intensity trails is where they see the missing person hiding up and they're fired up and they're rewarded really quickly. And it's sort of very instant. So it's just a massive big jackpot high. You're just giving them that instant quick high. And then look at going through sort of delayed trails and then doing that through those areas that they're really struggling with critters. So like I said, for us, it's just any movement. She's just a little movement queen. So it could be birds, it could be a squirrel, rats are for us, it could be a cat, it could be anything that you're trailing on, could be your critter. So for troubleshooting that, I would look at doing a higher intensity to get your dog really high and back in on the game. And then I'd just be mindful that what I've found as well is because I put lots more intensity into it, their body language could potentially change. So don't always think, oh, my dog's head's at this height, her tail's wagging this, yes, we're definitely on it, and I only trail in rural, I'm now going to go to urban and expect the same thing, because it's probably not going to happen. You won't get the instant click where the dog gives you the same body language. Or River hasn't anyway. It'd be interesting to see if anybody else does. And then the other thing I've noticed is, because I've put a lot more intensity in, that waggy tail that was there for her critters is now the waggy tail that's there for her mispers, so her hidey person, or the trail layer, which is great because she's obviously viewing the trail as that excitement and on par to her critters now. It just takes my brain a while to sort of recompute and to figure out what she's doing. So is there any questions so far? I think we're all right.
No, I think we're good.
The only other thing to do is, just like I said, just practice multiple areas, and don't avoid them like I did. That would be my #1 tip. Don't avoid them, because you're just going to have to work on them at some point, and just put lots more intensity in there. Kathryn, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, Poppy was at the door going and we don't distrust Poppy. I think it's awesome. I think Riven's like a really good example of a crittering and not crittering dog as well. She's
showing some videos there, because she is just, I love her dearly, but some days I just want to bang my head off a wall. Whereas Reed, my rocker, he's not quite right. He's not the sharpest tool, so he's actually quite good. He's quite easy for me, and so it's like a nice little walk in. It's not a walk in the park, because he drags me at about 60 miles an hour into whatever he can get me into, and over whatever he can get me into. But he's kind of like on the trail or off the trail. River's kind of worked out how to manipulate it, I suppose, to manipulate the trail to her own benefit, the little cow. So yeah, that's
super. I'm going to talk about quartering versus flowing negatives. So one of the things that we've talked about negatives as being a behavior which it tells you that there's no scent there. When we use a term within Mantrailing Global, and probably other versions of Mantrailing and on methods, is we use the term flowing negative, and that is if the trail went in a straight line and the dog goes like this and does like a ziggity zaggity loopity loo as they go along. It's called a flowing negative, where I'm just actually going to stop for a second. We've had 2 comments, and before I go any further, I'd like to address them actually. So I've just seen it pop up on the chat. So before I go any further, and we change subjects. Casper, I love the adrenaline rush I get every time I trail my Spaniels. Line handling is a challenge and the ability to read them is fun. Luna's been able to trail in environments full of pheasants because we've built foundations. So don't anyone with a Spaniel lose heart, they can trail beyond the curtain. They can, they honestly can, it just takes a bit of time.
That's exactly, because they're actually quite natural at following scent, you tend to push them on, and you can sometimes skip those foundations, and then that can be sometimes further down the line where you get the problems. So it's really worth investing. River has done really well recently, since I've just invested lots of time and intensity with her, and any dog can do it. It's just, you've just got to literally sort of put the time and effort into it.
So Davina's put, urban used to be my nemesis because the short lines, we worked hard on it, and now she's been bet urban, and she's rural, as every now and then she does go critting. I need to watch a change in her breathing too. I've not managed to catch it yet. The problem is you're usually behind the dog going and you're going, breathe in, I can only hear my heart in my head, and it is hard to listen to that. But again, video is a good one, and I'm just trying to, well, we could all get a bit fitter really, I think, as well. Just trying to take that in. Watching tails is a good one with Spaniels, definitely a good behaviour to watch. Any more questions or anything that links to crittering, guys, before I go on to negatives, so we're not jumping around too much? Can you use a canicross body harness on yourself to improve line handling? Oh, Sue, you've jumped the gun. We're going to talk about line handling in a bit.
Yeah, in it.
Yeah, she's on it. I love it. I love it. I love it. We're going to talk about line handling in a bit.
Hey guys, but if you can just bear with us, we are literally going to do like well, not the A to Z, but we are going to go through as much we can. So
we did tell you it was jam-packed, and it is running over a little bit longer than I thought it was going to run over. Yes, leaf chasing when it comes under crittering because your dog is doing something else. I would call that just switching jobs, that one. If the dog is not on the task and is using scent or its eyes to other things, it's generally crittering, and leaf chasing, children chasing, ball chasing could come under that as well. But it takes a bit of time. It's priorities, basically. What's your dog's priority? Is it the trail or is it other stuff within the trail? See if I can give it a second. Wait for those comments to come up. Right, quartering versus flow negative. So when you describe a flow negative within the Mantrailing we do is, say the trail's in a straight line and this is a dog going, yep, I'm on the trail, oh no, I've lost the trail, I'll come back, oh there's a scent, oh no, I've lost it again, there it is. And what the dog is doing is going, yes, the trail's here, no, the trail's not there. Most dogs don't tend to go, oh, I'm on the trail, follow it, unless you've got like it's usually German Shepherd or Hound that does that, but not all of them do it. What Spaniels tend to do, because quartering is a gun dog term, is a natural behavior, is where they're hunting for scent. So as the dog's following the trail, the dog isn't following. The best description I can say as, and this is my interpretation, other people might say it's different, is the Spaniel is not following the trail, the Spaniel is following the hunt for the trail. So it's hunting for the trail and going, yep, here it is, yep, no, it's that, there, yep, I've got it, this way, this way. It's not necessarily going, oh, A to B, like we talked before, it's A to Z, like, oh, that's not the trail, I'll disregard that. Oh, there's the trail, oh, that's something else, no, I'll disregard that, I'll come back to that later. I don't know if you agree with that, Joleen. The dogs are kind of working on the scent, but also the whole time going, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, as they go along, rather than going, yep, I'm on the trail, and head down.
In movement and quick in decision making, I think that's what makes them do it. So they're basically following the scent to its very edge. On, say, for instance, you're walking down a track to either side and going basically, oh, I've run out, coming back in, oh, I've run out, I'm coming back in. What you tend to see is people obviously sort of relating it to a Spaniel that naturally quarters, and because a Spaniel naturally quarters, you can often get quite a bit of that.
They're quite wide, aren't they? You'll find the Spaniels, if there's a path, they'll use whole path. If you've got a field, they might quarter to the end of the 10 meters of line, and they might do like this. It's hard work as a handler to do it. It's very wide. It's normal. It's fine. You will find as a Mantrailing journey, it tends to get a little bit more concise, but Spaniels do like to work to the edge of things. So if you've got, because scent sticks at the edge of things, scent sticks to moisture and it sticks to vegetation. So they will tend to aim to A to B. But it is quartering. It's the same behavior by a different name. It's just in Mantrailing, it's a bit tighter because they're physically restrained by the length of your line you have. Whereas if the dog's out on a normal walk, if anyone watches a Spaniel, and it comes down to Cass kind of like, where's the Spaniel image? It's 2 fields away doing this, making you feel dizzy, because they're so hunting for scent all the time, and they're working backwards and forwards, and they go, yes, no, yes, this is fun, oh, there's a rabbit here, oh, can I follow it? And they're making all those little decisions, those micro decisions in their brain about what to do, what not to do, and should I follow this or should I not? And it's normal and it's fine. It's just very hard as a handler because it tends to be quite back wrenching. The dog suddenly goes right and then left and then tries to kill you off by accident. They're not doing it because they're manic or they're being silly. They're doing it to sort that scent and work through it. And it's important that Spaniels have the opportunity to do that, because that's really normal genetic behavior, and it's really normal scent behavior for them. It's really normal working behavior, and they want to do it. And you'll see even non-working versions or show versions do it, that they will do quite wide flow negatives where they're working further on a different dog. Whereas you get a hound or a German Shepherd or a more like trailing breed, they will tend to work a bit closer to the trail and nose down. And if anyone's tried to do tracking with a Spaniel, I tried to track my Spaniel, and on the day I couldn't, the instructor was like, I've never seen a dog track like this, he's not doing it right. And I suddenly twigged what it was about an hour later. My Spaniel went, yeah, so I follow this footstep and then I come in on the right, and then I follow this footstep and I come in on the left, and she kept going in like this. And initially I thought she didn't get it. She got it, she just doesn't follow scent in a straight line. She's a Spaniel, so she came in on the curve because she was checking other stuff as she went. So her tracking would need to teach her to track, whereas trailing, she just follows the scent and she can be as free as she wants. But it was really interesting to see her work scent differently. It's also why you see drugs dog Spaniels, or detection, not drugs dogs, but like detection dogs. You'll see a Spaniel come in the room and go, right, the wall, there's the drugs. And they come in and they can't just go a straight line. It doesn't exist in a Spaniel's mind. There's no such thing as a straight line. There's only squiggles. So they tend to come in and just come a little bit manic. But that's what they're bred to do. They're bred to cover large areas when they're picking up birds or when they're flushing birds, because the more area they cover, the increased chance of finding the bird if it's been shot, or the increased chance of flushing a bird if they're flushing. Would you agree with that, Joleen?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've had a couple of more comments.
Super. Do you want to read the comments out?
Jane, Working Cockers and a few show cockers and springers, sprockers make up the second largest breed group that train with me in the lakes. I second Kath, they can be a challenge to learn with, but don't be disheartened, as they are awesome trailers. Yeah, they're absolutely fab dogs. And what we're discussing tonight, it's no one size fits all. We're just sort of talking about predominantly either our own dogs or the dogs that we trail. So it's not a generalization of what we're covering. We just want to try and cover enough so that at least a few people get some different bits from it, if that makes sense through the talk. They're awesome trailers. They can just sometimes be one of the more challenging breeds to learn to line handle with, but equally some very straight line and very, very focused. Whenever a Spaniel books on with me, I'm always excited because they're so much fun to trail. We have an absolute hoot with them and they're completely different. Kath said I had exactly the same problem with tracking, with not coming in as a straight line. And then Kirsty says quartering reminds me of a lifeboat search pattern. It's full of purpose.
Kirsty has Newfoundland that does finding people. It's awesome. Newfoundland. Flora's amazing. Sorry, talking about other breeds that are awesome. Yeah, Spaniels are good fun. I remember what we're talking about tonight is our opinion, our knowledge, and what we interpret. There's 1,001 ways to teach anything. We're just hoping that this webinar might give you go, oh yeah, tail, didn't think about that, or actually what I'm doing outside Mantrailing might be affecting my Mantrailing. And we're going to talk now about the end of the trail, which is going to have a lot more about things that you can do, and then we've got to talk about troubleshooting and things that you can do. So we're hopefully going to get our arse through this a little bit faster now, because I understand it's 9 o'clock and you guys have been here 2 hours. You're committed. We've only lost about 10 people off, so that's not too bad. I've gone to bed, gone off, so I'm talk about Spaniels. Super. So I'm just going to screen share again, so it look like I actually know what I'm doing. The end of the trail. So I'm going to talk about the rewards, and then I would like Joleen, you talk about Spaniel and Spaniels, because it comes back to River again, because she's a Spaniel and Spaniel, and then potentially moving subjects. So rewards, generally with the Mantrailing, we talk about food being king. We advocate that you have a wet food that dogs can lick from, and savor at the end and get all those endorphin release. And we talk about the hunt, prey, kill. The dog hunts the prey, which is finding the missing person. They get to them and they devour their food. We just don't have the kill bit. The problem with Spaniels is they're not interested in the kill bit generally, unless you're my murderous Springer Spaniel or River. My Springer Spaniel is a murderous bugger. They tend to be more movement based, and they tend to be more prey based. So what happens is we get there with some wet food in a tub, and they go, yeah, thanks, whatever, I'm busy, I'm off again. And they don't want to know about sorry, no one can see you guys. They don't want to know about your pot full of food. They're not interested in it. It's not got enough rewards for them. What they want to do is get movement or have fun or run again, which is where the intensity trails, that little follow-on trail after our main trails, is really important to a lot of Spaniels. What you'll get with the reward is some Spaniels will come into the person, clock them in the bush and go, yep, that's my misper. I'm going to go over here. And they won't come in on the person. They don't want to get involved with them, because the reward, it's more rewarding to do Spaniel things and to sniff than it is to get the person, because they know when they get the person, the game's going to end. So you do have to think outside the box. So I think actually Marie with Hebe's on this. So I'm hoping she might actually part
One about outside the box. Yeah, she's on still.
Yeah. So Marie Hebe uses bubbles to reward Hebe. A little bubble machine, and she goes wild for it, and it's amazing because that's what she likes. It's not a problem to use that, and I haven't been from Marie's journey. I know she travels with other instructors. It's what we've seen is when I've done stuff with her is this: the dog just goes, yeah, I found the person, where's my bubbles? And that's what she likes. I think you probably could have thrown loads of food at her head and she wouldn't care, but she likes playing with bubbles. I've seen a lot of Spaniels like to do the parading at the end, so you get a toy with them. Marie's put bubbles, leaves, molehills, and water splashes, all of which are usually findable. So you can see this dog wants to do movement-based things or like digging things. She wants to do like more breed, like fun behavior. And a lot of Spaniels aren't going to take a tasty treat. So Captain, my male Springer, he's a really good man trailer. He's awesome. He will eat food at the end. He does not savor it. He swallows it whole, usually bites the person by accident through the food pot and takes their fingers off, because he comes in and goes, bang. Pretty sure he thinks he's a Malinois. He grabs the pots, inhales the food, tends to try and crunch the pots as well, and then goes, yeah, whatever, run on. And just looks at the misper like, why are you running? I switched to a toy with him, and he trails 10 times better now, and he doesn't take out the misper at the end. He comes in and he goes, where's my toy? We have a huge game. He loves to play tuggy, and the only time he sees a ball on the rope is Mantrailing, and he plays tuggy with the misper. They run off again, he plays tuggy again, and then we play tuggy all the way back to the car, and he looks like a little Malinois on the end of it. He's growling, he's fighting the toy. That's his reward. Now, if I wouldn't use that in other types of day-to-day. He doesn't get that any time apart from Mantrailing. Mantrailing is time to beat the crap out of this ball and have fun. I can use food, but food will not override other stuff for him, because he's not interested. He'll eat it, but it doesn't override stuff. It hasn't got high enough value. But I can give him high value stuff. He doesn't touch the sides. He just swallows it whole. And he would literally choke himself on something stupid, because he's an idiot Spaniel. He's somewhere under my chair, actually. So the movement base, so bubbles, flirt poles are a really good one, or even like cat toys, which probably aren't durable enough, but something you can flick about. When that Spaniel comes in, you're getting the misper to go, oh, I've got something fun, a ball or a line or a flirt pole. You see the Spaniel go, bing, you're worth interacting with, and they want to get involved. So finding the right reward can be really hard for a Spaniel, but it's also incredibly important. Claire Cantel's put my Spaniel's an absolute praise junkie. I call them attention whores. And he wants attention. So some Spaniels go, found you. Look guys, I found them. Have you seen? I'm so amazing. I do find that more in bull breeds actually over Spaniels. I find bull breeds are a real attention whores. But Spaniels, they want to know an ace, and that's okay. That's okay. They want to. I don't care what your Spaniel's reward is. I'm not interested in what you perceive it as. I want to know what that Spaniel's value in it. And your homework on that is to go out and do selection tests and try and find something they find fun. Captain loves playing tuggy, but we don't play a lot of tuggy in my house because I've got German Shepherds and Malinois. It all ends in tears because everybody just wants the ball. So he only gets it one-to-one time with me. Then we brought it into Mantrailing, and it's become something he finds highly valuing. But one thing I did was let him play with lots of people. He's quite an aloof dog, so there's no point handing it to a stranger on Mantrailing because he just goes, yeah. He had to learn that people Mantrailing would produce the ball, and he had to learn that playing tuggy with people was fun. Same with if you've got a dog that's a bit nervous people, teaching them that food comes from pots and then from people is a really good one. Squeaky toys is a winner. Love a squeaky with a spaniel. They just go bananas for it. It just makes them little primal bing bing prey brain go off, and it's really good fun. So squeaky pocket tug, I think Tug Enough do like little squeaky rabbit ones. They're not very durable though. They do not last long in a spaniel gob, but they are good fun. And you can get a synthetic version. You don't have to have a rabbit skin. Jolene's going to tell you about Fred in a minute, because I love Fred. But you can also get rabbit balls as well, like gun dog people use them. Or dummies, if your dog's got association with gun dog stuff and dummies and retrieving it and it finds it fun, as long as it's not going to affect your actual job or your other training, bring a dummies fine, or bringing whatever, it doesn't matter. If the dog wants to carry it all back to the car, it's fine. Nancy's put 5 years and I still can't find a reward of my Sussex Spaniel. That is not a breed I have specifically trailed with, actually, the Sussex Spaniel, because there's very few in the country, and they often get confused with a Field Spaniel or a Cocker. It's a different one. It would have to be, I could suggest if I could see the dog trailing, I might be able to give some more suggestions on that one, but it is a hard one. If you don't know, and some dogs, Joleen will talk about River, it's hard work. You just don't. So one day you'll stumble on it. So I'll pass over to you, Joleen, to talk about River and Fred and all the things that we may have planned to try and find a reward that she really truly likes.
To get over the crittering, obviously I had to up my game with my rewards so that it was more rewarding to find the person than the environment was, which, if you can imagine, is actually can be really hard work sometimes. So Fred is a rabbit skin who I played with at home, and River's like pupils dilate. She absolutely loves it. So I basically started bringing it to trailing, and the looks I got, because I would just literally hand Fred over to the misper, and it's a full rabbit skin minus the head. So I'm not sure it was perceived very well, but bless, these mispers were really obliging. They were really good mispers. They would head off with Fred hidden down their top to go and hide. But I've found a lot with River and a lot with Spaniels, and I've looked into this mainly because I've struggled with recall a lot with River, is that when Spaniels flick into that hunt and that prey drive, they often switch off their hunger hormones. So River's really hard to get any food kind of motivation into her, because she wants to run and chase, and she has a real big chase drive. She doesn't necessarily want to eat. So when River gets to her misper, although I can get her to eat now, I have to come up with some random stuff. I'm sure I've used like spaghetti hoops or beef broth soup at some point. It is just really random.
She comes with all sorts, with cheese marmite or something, wasn't it, so long ago?
I have no idea. Like, I think she had cat
dinners, all sorts.
Yeah. I think I brought McDonald's breakfast wraps one day. So for her, she basically gets to her mispers, and she's so overexcited, adrenaline's through the roof, her pupils are all dilated. So for her to get her to concentrate on any kind of toy just wasn't going to work, even if she's got a lot of drive for that toy at home. So it literally is worth thinking about. So it isn't always going to be food. So a lot of the time we do say to people, oh, your spaniel will come bring food pots. For me, bring anything. Bring anything that could potentially work with your dog, and let's try it, and let's allow the dog to pick what they want at the end. And like I think Lynn's just said there, Lynn's just said rewards can change. My Springer always trailed for food and big cuddles, but once he did his conservation training, he decided that the tennis ball is now the best thing ever and won't look at food or the Miss He wants to play with his tennis ball. Yeah, it's really different. So for my guys, I always switch up the food. They don't always have the same pots. It's not necessarily what's going to be easy for me. It's got to be what's better for my dog, especially if I'm doing dealing with issues with crittering and losing focus and stuff. Tennis balls, she'll give and take. She does like sort of the squashy toys. Do you remember the toys that used to come from McDonald's? She loves those. But again, she won't take that off of a Misper. I've tried flirt poles, I've tried rabbit balls, tried Fred, the rabbit skin. My next one I'm going to try is I'm going to try and see if I can get rat scent and sent up a toy and see if get the crittering into the toy that she gets at the end. I'll let you all know how that goes, but
Yeah, we'll do
always is just worth thinking how high they get while they're on the trail might mean that they just don't want to take food at the end. I'd love it if she would just take a tennis ball. Rivers searches for Kong and she's rewarded with Kong, but she's not very into it. She's such a sassy pants. So yeah, but it's always worth just changing it up as well and bringing multiple things. And if you find the right reward, like you said, it will really do wonders. Unless you've got one of those dogs that's just in it for the trail, that's just in it for the scent itself. Should we move on to moving?
I was going to jump past that and actually go on to progression contamination because it's that relevant, the moving subjects. The main thing is things change with rewards, and it's okay if they aren't fussed about reward. If they always find the person and they enjoy it, if a dog doesn't want to mantrail, it won't mantrail. You can't force a dog to use its nose. So it's nice if you can find a reward they like, but don't panic. Progression.
So before we go on, like Reef would literally just do it for a cuddles for the Mispers, wouldn't he?
He's just having a laugh.
He's so easy, that dog. He would just do it for cuddles, so I wouldn't even have to feed him. It would be the cheapest man-trailing dog alive. But yeah, it's just finding what works and going from there, what works for your dog. Should we go on to contamination and stuff?
Yeah, let's jump forward to contamination. So contamination is a hard one, Spaniels. We've talked about crittering things, and it just kind of links in with that one. They're genetically prone, and they're designed to follow the freshest scent because that's the most likelihood of flushing a pheasant. That's the most likelihood of retrieving a bird that's been shot. So when you think about what Spaniels bred for, they are generally genetically coded for the freshest scent. I can't prove that, that's my opinion. But when you think what they're bred for, that's what they're designed to do. So they're going to do it. So when we do mantrailing, we're like, yep, you can find this person, but something's crossed this trail, you know, bird, squirrel, whatever. The dog's going to go, need to find person, squirrel, likelihood of getting reward from squirrel, fairly high. Fun of chasing squirrel, very high. And they'll naturally want to change. So contamination is a big issue. So we talk about urban can be useful. Yeah, it's great, but you'll still get contamination urban. I've literally have rats run across trails in urban. It's disgusting. It's life. Literally run across in front of the dogs. Obviously, poor River got bitten. So there isn't a lack of contamination there. It's just that you get less critters. But there's an increase in contamination from fresher people scent. And if you've got a dog that's like, yep, I want to find people, and they're keen on it, but they haven't quite got the game, and they're like, just find the freshest scent. I've followed the trail. Oh, someone's walked past this. I'm going to switch because the likelihood of reward is there. It can be difficult for the dogs to kind of get through that. And what I find actually best with Spaniels from day dot is to embrace contamination, crack on with it, and do not isolate them from it. Get that dog in the middle of town doing intensities past other people. Get them working on busy environments, because they will selectively switch off the background noises. If you've ever been reading a book on a train, you can't hear anything, you can't hear the conductor saying stuff, you can't hear the chatter, you're just focusing on it. And you can teach a spaniel to focus in on that scent, almost like when, you know, I said book on the train, it'll be a phone on the train. When you're on your phone on the train, book on the train, it's not like that anymore, it's a bloody Kindle on your phone. When you focus in on it, other stuff turns off and you almost have to be jumped out of it. And we can teach spaniels to be like that. It's about the reward and it's about the foundations. But shying away from contamination and going, oh well, the trail's contaminated, the dog won't do it, will mean that you'll never get a chance to trail your spaniel, because life is contaminated. There's always going to be a fresher version of that scent that's either blown on the trail or crossed the trail. So embrace it, do your blue line trailing where you know stuff is, and do your knowing where the scent ends. A backtrack trail is brilliant for working through contamination. So again, we talked about splits before, but a backtrack trail is where the trail comes so far up, the misper walks, I don't know, say 10 meters to the left, comes back and then goes on to the right. What we've got here is a trail. We've got a slight age and actually a stronger version of the scent because it's been walked over twice, and then you've got the fresh scent. What you will find most spaniels do is go, oh, okay, trail stops, usually go a little bit further on, then come back. What you're using that backtrack for is to not just deal with contamination, but I should have brought it in before, is to deal with
negatives.
Yeah, negatives, so that you can read them. And so that you can understand the dog. Video's gone again. That just tips into age trails as well, because the dogs are designed to follow the fresher scent. What you'll find with some spaniels, not all, and it's not happened with every spaniel I've worked with, it's happened just with one or two, I've kind of noticed it, is when you offer an age trail and it's like half an hour old, dog goes, yeah, there's an age trail there, and I know it's the different person I've got to find, but there is a fresher trail off Sally, who I trailed for 3 weeks ago, and I'm going to follow their trail, because they've got a reward history or reward memory with that person. They will switch to the fresher trail, which may give them a reward, if that makes sense. So age trails can be difficult for some spaniels, not all. Again, this is an overarching spaniel conversation. So it can be difficult. So you need to know, as the instructor and the student, where those newer trails and where the age trails are, so that you can make sure the dog's either on the trail, or if it's going off the trail, why is it going off the trail? Is it blown scent? Is it environment? Is there other stuff going on? It's important to know. Do you want to talk about blown scent, Joleen?
So blown scent can often be a really difficult one with the spaniels, because they, so for Reef, if I speak in general for him, he's very much black and white, he's on it, he's off it. Blown scent, it's obviously still the scent, it's just in a sort of a weaker form, and it's gone in sort of a more weaker direction, I would probably say. That would be my analysis of it. Obviously it's not proper terminology, and it's just the way I look at it for him. So it can often throw the dogs off quite a lot with blown scent, because they'll go with the potential enthusiasm that they're still on the trail, and then sort of come to this end where it just doesn't stop. So the spaniels will want to work sort of like we said, because they just really want to do it. They're really like sort of focused, they're really enthusiastic. So what they might do is, if they run out of blown scent, they might hunt for it, and that you might end up getting sort of them into this hunt mode, which is where they'll just keep going a little bit further on the off chance that they might catch it. It doesn't always occur to them to turn back unless you've got a really sort of forward, like sort of down the line trained dog, and you've put them an energy into sort of learning all the components of training and going down there. The other thing I found with a lot of pet dogs that we trail is that if they do go on blown scent and the owner is quick to follow behind them, they can go on, and they can go on for quite a long time, and we discussed this earlier. The one thing I would say is on blown scent is that there is a difference in the body language, and it is just a fact of setting up trails where you're going to use the wind to your benefit. When River is on blown scent, and I'll use her as an example, she's a little bit wishy-washy. It's the only way I can describe it. It's a little bit loose, it's a little bit bit airy-fairy. When she's on it, she's in momentum she's down, and that's the only way I've done it, is just by setting trails up where I've used the environment and the wind to my friend to understand that body language. But yeah, blown scent will often just cause the spaniels to go on, because they will just work the scent till its end, and then potentially flick into hunt mode and keep going to try and find it again. That makes sense.
Does to me. Any questions so far, guys? You're all very quiet at the moment. You're either gone to sleep, or we're just really answering.
We check if there's still people on. Yeah, we could be talking to ourselves. No, people. That's a load.
So let's come to the fun bit of owning a spaniel. Line handling. Line handling. Hard work.
I'll let you do the first bit, and I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. 2 seconds. Thanks.
Super. I'm going to tell you now, there's unfortunately no magic trick to line handling. You just have to practice, and then practice some more. Spaniels are fast. You're not going to slow them down. You could put lead weights on them and they wouldn't slow down. They wouldn't slow down. So you do have to quickly learn to be fast on the line. And who was it that said about harness on people? It's fun. Get somebody either holding the line or line right around them, or get a harness on them and get that person to run around like a spaniel. Joleen, I've just muted you because Nero was barking, so just unmute yourself. Get someone running around. Absolutely do it. And it's Caroline's put, I should have put a collie. I did warn you, Caroline, you should have had a collie. Get someone to run around and move at speed and practice reeling that line in and out, What can happen a lot of spaniel people is they get the line so far out, they end up getting the rest of the line in a bit of a tangle. It tends to get a bit caught. They try and reel back in, they lose the loops, and then they just get stuck at a length because they've got themselves in a tangle, or the dogs, they've got the line caught on their fingers and they're panicked about breaking their fingers, which you should be. So you've got to be quick in and out with a spaniel. There's no stopping that. You've got to be quick in and out, because if that dog goes down the trail, it's going, yep, I'm on the trail, this is brilliant. And so it goes, oh, the scent's drifted. It goes to the left. If you're not ready for it, you're going to have your shoulder go out. I'm pretty sure Jolene's usually injured because of her spaniel and anything else. Why have you got bad neck, Joleen? You're still muted.
I'm sat here with a heat pad on my neck, basically. So
Jenny's put everything you say applies to Cairn Terriers. Yeah, well, Cairn Terriers are tenacious little things. They're like just full of it. It all applies to any breed. We're just talking about spaniels. It's all the same thing. I've almost been taken out by a shepherd on several occasions. I find the smaller dog that worse is to handle, because they're much quicker and you're in and out like a yo-yo, and then you get tangled because they're within your feet. Practice makes permanence. Practice doesn't make perfect. Actually, it was Dawn Heaton, one of the head instructors, that said that to me, and it resonated with me. That practice makes permanence. When you are thinking about your line handling and practicing it, do not practice the thing wrong. Get it in your head how to do it right. And it is a real skill with spaniels to be able to reel on the move and pull that line in and get it and not jud the line. But the only way you're gonna get is practice with your line on a fence, reeling a line in and out. And I would also practice doing it with both hands as lead hands. So I call land on the front of the line is your stop go, but I call it the lead hand, and the hand on the loops is my anchor hand. That's we're really putting the anchor in. Learn to be ambidextrous with it, because you never know when you're going to tangle around a bush and you're going to have to throw the line out, catch it and carry on. Yeah, that's Sue's put it. Yeah, so yeah, use a harness on yourself and or on somebody else preferably, and practice pulling that line on them. Don't hurt them, and what you do in the bedroom is up to you, but just practice that pressure and getting that line in and out at speed. It's important to be able to practice that, because otherwise you're going to get your fingers caught and get yourself hurt. You need to be able to practice those things. If you haven't got a willing partner, get your dog out on a long line on a walk carefully, and have them trailing behind the line. It's not something I like doing. It is something that we advise it's something that we talk about instructors, but it's not something I necessarily like. But you can practice having the dog on the long line on a walk, running along and reeling in and out, reeling in and out, reeling in and out. Just for God's sake, watch your fingers when you're practicing this stuff, because Spaniels will break it and they won't care. It's a difficult one. We could do like a Spaniel workshop, really. We'll just tie it to a small child and we'll sugar. We'll just feed Charlie loads and loads of chocolate, get him run round a long line, and then we'll just catch him.
They are like children on Skittles.
Well, Reef is anyway.
Yeah.
Get good about untangling it from trees. Someone's just put I've lost my Spaniel a couple of times in woodlands where I attempted to drop and catch a lion and wrap it from the tree, and she zooms off quickly to pick it up. The thing with getting stuck with something is the length of the line as you catch it. If they've already got 8 meters of it, you ain't never going to catch it. I have done the same thing. I have dropped the line. Luckily, my Spaniel has got an instant drop on command. So he will, as soon as I shout wait, he will drop to the ground. And I've had to do that, which isn't ideal because he does see that as a bit negative, because that's my emergency shit's hit the fan command. So we've had to use that because he would just follow the trail without me. So if I've got enough line, I will drop and catch, and I'm not going to do that if I'm losing more than half the lines, more than 5 meters, my line's gone. I ain't gonna drop and catch because I'll never catch it. If I can't, he's just going to have to wait. I'm going to have to stay, get him slowed down, catch the line and carry on and pull it round. That comes down with your Spaniel, which we're going to talk on to now, actually, with environmental corrections and corrections by accident, how to get past that. Oh look, 2 up for a Spaniel workshop, Joleen.
You've opened the can now, haven't you?
Maybe we need to do some Spaniel workshops. The other thing I'll talk about line length, and then I'll hand over to you for corrections, Joleen. Line length, it can be tempting to give your Spaniel that 10-50 meters of line, whatever your line length is. It's very hard to get back in and out. I am tempted with a Spaniel to have shorter rather than longer line. It doesn't suit every dog, we've already discussed that, but I will work closer to 6 meters of line than I would 8 meters of line, based on the fact of getting that line in at speed and also tangleability. If he hasn't got 10 meters to get in a bush with, I'm less likely to lose him in a bush after scent. So I tend to keep my lines probably a little bit shorter than most, unless it's, we've got an open area. I do keep it a bit shorter. We've worked through him just dragging me along and not worried about me being up his bum. Whereas other Spaniels are like, oh my God, you're far too close, get away, get away. They're more sensitive. Right, I'm going to hand over to Joleen for corrections, what we kind of mean about corrections when we're dealing with long line.
Yeah, so when we mean corrections, we're not talking anything negative. We're not. So there's a very strong chance that you're going to get tangled in something, and you're going to jerk the dog at some point. It's going to happen. Either they'll pull the line out too quickly, and you'll put your brake on to stop it, and they'll have that jerk. They'll get wrapped around a tree, and we won't be able to get the line back or get ourselves round to preempt it, and they'll have a jerk. So when we're talking about corrections, that's what we mean. So there's accidental times that we've caught the line and it's given the dog that pull to give them that corrections. This is going to be part of sort of a Spaniel handler, but any kind of fast dog, any quick working dog, you're going to potentially accidentally correct them. And you need to sort of work with yourself on the things we've talked about with your line length, and making sure you're getting good with your line, but also the stuff that you can do with your dog to make sure that if they do get accidentally checked, it's not the end of the world, and they have to return to your side and they're not going to trail forward. So the reason I want to put this in, and we've talked about it, is because a lot of the time I'm spending more time doing my line and getting untangled from things than I am being able to read my dog. Now that might just be my Spaniels. River isn't as quick as Reef. Reef is like 100 million miles an hour, even when I'm just on a nice, slow, steady walking pace. But the difference with Reef is Reef has got no he's got no fear of anything, I would say. So if we're going off, mind you, River hasn't either. So if we're going anywhere, we will be going off a wall, or we'll be going over an edge of something, or they are the dangerous two that I trail. So you want to be able to get your dog used to potentially getting that line pull. There's no way about it. So what you want to look at is you want to look at your equipment first of all. So you want to look at that you've got a nice, well-fitted sort of Mantrailing harness. You want that nice Y shape at the front. I know this isn't going to be subjective to all, but it is definitely what we advise at Mantrailing Global, now used to be UK. You want to make sure that the dog isn't going to get hurt for a start, or cause any additional injury by these accident online checks. Reef would seriously give himself an injury if I was slower on my line, if that makes sense. So for me, I've had to really up my game. You want to make sure that you can do all you can with your line, and then you want to look at working on the dog pulling in an intensity trail and getting used to it outside of potentially Mantrailing. So again, I often find it a dog that has been sort of given a lot of cues and told a lot and being given a lot of things to do, that sometimes if they have an accidental line check, they think it's the end of the world. Or maybe we've gone on a walk and I've told my dog it can't move forward. It's very sort of old school, that kind of thing. Oh, I'm going to check them with but sometimes the dogs can go, oh gosh, what was that? Or oh gosh, it's not that way. So if you look at doing some intensity trails, and potentially they do have a jerk on the line, you could just look at sort of going, okay, not a problem, go on, work on. Marie said that she found a short bungee attached to her harness for a line. Really helps. It does really help. I've got a bungee on Reef's harness. I don't think I could trail with him at the moment without it. He would really sort of probably give me injury rather than him, because he's so jerky. I would look at it so that the dog gets used to having the odd intentional sort of jerk on the line, like you're going to get used to it. Sort of praise them if you need to go, it's okay, that's fine, you can work on. If you're doing it and it's in the midst of a trail, as a handler, you need to just sort of be mindful of the direction of the trail going, because like I said, if the dog deems it as, oh, I can't go this way, I've now got to give another direction, the Spaniels will make that before you've even got your line untangled from somewhere. They'll make the decision to go a different direction. So you want to make sure that your behaviour doesn't influence the dog, so that they don't just go, oh, I've been checked, I'm going a different way. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you don't just stand there. So sometimes we can get in such a fluster with our line handling that we've got so wrapped around that we just sort of stand there and the dog's sort of left there for a few minutes. Spaniels don't do well with having to wait for anything. And sometimes this can often be at the starts as well, which we discussed before. So any kind of weights, you just want it to kind of be fluid. You want it to sort of be as fluid as you possibly can. And go forward and check them, and then just ask them to carry on. The Spaniels will be really quick, and they can often just turn on a sixpence, can't they? And they'll be in the opposite direction. So doing stuff either outside of Mantrailing with their harness on, so that occasionally they might get jerked, or I'm not telling you to go out and intentionally jerk your dog. What I want the dogs to do is to sort of go, in the context of Mantrailing, I might get wrapped round this tree. They're not going to understand that they've got round this tree. They've got wrapped round the tree. They're just doing something that's natural. For us, it's, oh gosh, you've gone round this tree again, and I've got 4 loops wrapped round. I'm never going to get this out. So you want the dogs to sort of just go, oh, okay, no problem, carry on. And that would be the best that I could look at describing that. Is there anything you want to add to that, Kathryn?
No, I think that was pretty cool, that actually. Pretty to the point.
Yeah, I'm trying to just keep it to the point because of the time, but also it's just the dogs need to learn that it's just not the end of the world. But handlers also need to sort of be sort of mindful that if they accidentally get knocked around a tree, or even if they get caught on a bush, it can pull them off, and they can go in the opposite direction. And you just need to go, actually, I was traveling this to the right, I got caught on that tree that's just around that bend, my dog then switched to the left. I'd be just mindful of that and potentially go, actually, that was me that line checked them, I need to take them back. and go and carry on down the trail.
Yeah, handler error is the biggest cause of problems with mantrailing. So it's just remembering, did what you do cause a change? Did you get stuck in a bush and have to stop, suddenly make your dog fly to the right? Is it on scent or is it guessing? Right, we're almost at the end, guys, and actually we're just going to talk about troubleshooting on the trail, but actually a lot of this we've probably already covered anecdotally as we worked along. So conflict previous trailing from other jobs, we did have a chit chat about it, or just mention it. If you've got a dog that does other scent work, or it's a gun dog or a detection dog or a pet has got high obedience, when you come to doing mantrailing, this can cause conflict because it's quite a free sport, and that's one of the reasons why quite pushy about the ritual and maintaining it. It's another reason why we have a mantrailing harness and we have a line, and we're quite specific about the start on it, because we want the dog to go, oh, in this context I do this, and I'm allowed to drag on the line, or we're not looking for pheasants because I'm focused on this. If you don't have that, we're in this mode, it can cause issues. And when we talked about scent article and gun dogs picking up, or gun dog trained dog, sorry, picking up scent articles, this is where the dog doesn't fully understand the game they're playing and will resort back to previous reward history or things they find more rewarding than what they're currently doing. Remember, mantrailing is very free and it's fun for a dog, but it's also dogs making decisions. If you've got a dog that's done a lot of training, a lot of obedience, and you suddenly go, yeah, do what you want. You make decisions, I'll follow you. Dog goes, I'm sorry, what? What? You just spent the last 4 years telling me off every time, or training me to focus on you, rather, every time that I do something that's slightly independent. And now you want me to do it. And they look at you like you're an idiot. And it means that they can revert back to, and I'm not sure they'll revert to things that they find comforting or good to do. So I think Amy's still on this. So Amy's dog Hendrix, he wouldn't pick the scent article up and he'd stand there and go, I'm a gun dog, retrieve it. And Amy's worked amazing. Like she's awesome. She's a good instructor and he's a cracking dog to get past that. And now he will sniff and carry on the trail. But it was a great conflict beginning. He's an excellent mantrailing dog, but the start was becoming difficult because he didn't know whether he wanted to revert to gun dog stuff because it was comforting and that's what he knows how to do, or to mantrail because it was fun. And then you could see his head go, mantrail, take scent article with me. But you could see the whole time he had it, he was going, am I gun dogging or what? And it's difficult. Sorry, terrible multitasking tonight. You can tell I'm tired. So that previous training, if you've got a dog that's done scent work, absolutely fine. So Sue's just asked, if a dog's done scent work looking for gun oil, would mantrail interfere with this? Nope, does not interfere at all, as long as you get the starts right. What I will see with dogs that don't quite understand mantrailing and do a lot of scent work, they will revert to searching cars in the car park. I've seen that quite a few times. I've done dogs a lot of scent work. It's too hard a trail, or the start is difficult, or something has made it that the dog's struggling to start. They'll go and search cars. So they'll do the inventory, get all harnessed up, set off on the trail, go to cars and search the cars. Because they'll go and find the person sent on the car, which is absolutely fine. And then they'll go, oh, person sent here on the car. I know how to do search work. I'm going to look for something else on the car, because they want a reward. They found the trail itself too difficult. So I do find that sometimes if they've been set up to fail by accident, by the environment or whatever factor, they can revert back. But you can successfully train most any dog to know the difference between different sports. Like I mantrail my ex-security dogs, they're muzzled, but they're bite work trained dogs. They were trained to look after me. That was their job, was to protect me and my family, and when I work sites and my other half. But they're mantrail, they're not looking for people to have a go at. On the normal, and when they're at work, yeah, you wouldn't have got within 60 foot of me with the dogs like losing their mind. When we mantrail, they're like, all right, mate. Because it's a different context. They're on a harness, they're in a muzzle, they're working in a different way. They aren't looking for trouble, because there is no trouble associated with mantrailing. The bite work's never associated with it. Whereas when they're out on their big flat leather collar, they go, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to bark at everybody, and they'll bark at anybody indiscriminately. It also, people do a lot of tracking and mantrailing, and they really complement each other. But I would always advise, if you want to do tracking first. teach the dog to put its nose down first before you go, hey, it's fine to be free, because what you'll find is mantrailing will ruin the foundations of tracking and make it harder to start. It won't necessarily, ruin's the wrong word, it will make it more difficult to start, because the dog will go, but why do I put my nose on the ground? Not always true, but is generally the consensus that I'm seeing. They're the same but different. Tracking is a taught, follow, very specific, whereas mantrailing's follow a specific person's scent and very free. With mantrailing, we've got that start, they'll go on to do it. With tracking, they've got a different kind of harness and different kind of start. They will track. They won't interfere, but they will complement each other if you get the starts right. So just watching that conflict and making sure you're not using the same cues all the time and stuff can make a big difference. If you do scent work and you use find it to find gun oil, don't use find it to find people. Use trail. That's the biggest one I find. Oh, I want to use the same commands. Your dog doesn't know the difference if you use the same commands.
I find the handlers struggle with it more. I do scent work and mantrailing with mine. So I find the handlers struggle with the different terminology. So as long as you have separate things for different things in scent work, I found that a lot of the dogs, especially if you've progressed, is that they can get used to searching objects, like Kathryn said. So hence why they've gone and searched a specific object before looking at going to follow the human scent that's on the floor. For that, I actually think that scent work actually complements a mantrailing dog. I think it gives that dog an extra tool to put in its toolbox. And if you have ever done scent work with your dog and you mantrail, a lot of scent work dogs really have a really nice behaviour when they're working out the proximity alert. So the proximity alert is where the dogs hit a big plume of scent from the missing person that's been there for a while, and they know that they're close. So if you ever watch a dog does both of those tasks, it's really interesting to watch those dogs work the proximity alert into the whispers. It's really good. They really problem solve and they work back to source really, really well. So I like the two. But it's just making sure that it's clear to the dog. Just have clear expectations for your dog. Don't set it so it's hard and the dog's just not able to communicate and doesn't understand what we're asking for it, because then it just won't be enjoyable.
Yeah. The next thing is no running. Don't run. You'll never keep up. It's not worth it with a spaniel. Just don't do it. I know people are like, oh, it's the only way I can train up. No, you'll get hurt. You'll never keep up. Absolutely never. Lean back, enjoy the ride. My troubleshooting on that one is just lean back. Pressure in your hips, lean back. Don't trail like this with your arms out, you will die. Arms in, your center of gravity is on your hips, and lean back.
Yeah, so look for, if you've got a strong spaniel, look for your core strength. If you look at holding your arms out, you're going to be projected and pulled forward, and then that will get you into a faster movement. So I would look at keeping your line central, so that you're using your core strength. I tend to lean back a little bit like a skier would, if that makes sense. If anyone's watched my photos, I look like Mr. Soft because my leg's bending, but my body's angular, if that makes sense. If you are old enough to remember those adverts. For me, it's really easy to try and go faster with your spaniel, and you really have to try and find a speed that works for two of you. And it might take you a while to come to that sort of mutual agreement, I think it should be. Think the tortoise and the hare went really quickly. It didn't really get there in the end, did it? The slow and steady tortoise did. And I'm one for it anyway. I'm terrible. Jerry always tells me, slow Reef down, slow him down. You can work him slower, you can work him slower. So I know how easy it is to sort of go quicker. And especially if they get into proximity, because you're all excited and you've got the adrenaline buzz as well. You've got that high. So yeah, just make sure you just do not run, because it's just going to hinder your progress. Do you want to do foundations?
Yeah, I'll just read the comments because Amy's actually commented about Hendrix. The only difference since Hendrix trailing in the shoot season has started, he's much more distracted. Dare I say it, some of the worst starts I've seen. and trails are now avoiding any cover. So yeah, the dog has gone into his mode of I'm at work, and it's something he's been trained for prior to mantrailing, and something he genetically absolutely adores because it's bred to do. I have seen it with other spaniels that have done more gun dog training. They come to trail and they're struggling because they're not seeing the difference, or they're trying to use the scent in a weird way. So if something's looking a bit confused and you're not sure, look at what's happening outside of mantrailing. Kind of very interesting how Jessie trails. Yeah, you've got a collie cross spaniel. Molly Taylor's put, I have to lean back, hold the loops behind my back and pull. Yeah, lean back, put the weight in your hips.
Yeah, that's what I stick my loops behind my back, and I've literally sort of got it like a C around my back, and I go from there. Yeah, it just makes it harder to do your line handling, getting your line in.
Sue, I'm not sure what you mean with a long line attached at the front. You have to explain a bit further, because we don't ever attach long line to the front of the harness. They're designed to pull, which is a kind of harness. I don't know what you mean with that comment, so you have to write it out. I'll just go on foundations and I'll wait to see your comment is. It's easy to skip foundation spaniel. Actually, it tends to be what most people do, is they're really good at it and you want to progress them to slow them down, because people are like, oh, I'll get on to hard starts, the dog slows down, and it does, and it all falls apart when you start to get single blinds and double blinds. The second you as a handler don't know what's going on, completely falls apart. That's coming from personally me. I've gone through that. I have really ruined my relationship with my spaniel by not knowing what's going on, not able to help him, because I didn't understand him, because I pushed him too hard in some things. Well, actually, it was my first Springer, Nessa, that I trailed with rather than Captain. And when I say him, it's her. I was learning and I made mistakes with her, and it took me time to rectify it. I haven't made them so much with Captain, and I won't make them with my puppy, because I'm going to hammer foundations till it's going out of fashion. Don't skip them because it's easier for you. It's not going to be easy long term when you go, I can't read my spaniel, I don't understand, they're swinging around the end of the line like a headless chicken, and I get all these from owners of the spaniel, and it's being negative. And there's nothing wrong with what your dog's doing. Your dog's trying to interpret what the hell's going on and trying to communicate back to you. Reinforce foundations. If you can't read your negatives or the blue light, if you're doing trails where you know the trail is and you don't know what your dog's negatives are, you've got no business doing single blinds or double blinds. Because if you can't communicate that to me, why are you making it harder, where the dog's got more potential to make a mistake, you've got huge potential to make a mistake, and we're likely to reinforce the wrong behavior, like crittering, like going off the trail, like doing different things. So make sure you're doing, I'm not necessarily mean doing loads of hunter trails and intensity trails, but just doing delayed and scent article in environments that your dog can work in rural, that's not too crittery, in high critical combination, in urban. Get all that really good and understand your dog before you go and 2-hour age double blinds, because you will fall flat on your face. Because when that dog goes, I don't know what to do, and starts casting around like an idiot, and you're frustrated because you don't know if it's on or off the trail, and actually lost the trail 400 meters away, you're not going to recover from that, and you're going to have a huge negative and a big dip. We talked a lot about this in me and Joleen did a webinar on plateaus, and when you're reaching a point in your training where things are going a little bit wrong, it's important that you set yourself up for success, and it's important that foundations are really good. And it's probably worth it, if you're not sure, watching that webinar and just kind of going through the process in your brain, because mantrailing is 50% dog and it's 50% you, and you have to be able to read your dog before you progress. It's important. Oh, Sue, I know what you mean. Sorry, let's finish that anyway, foundations. No, we never had the dog completely attached to us, because if the dog runs and you go down, you're going to get dragged and hurt. So we aren't doing canicross, we're not doing it at speed, we have the dogs on a line. Sorry, I must have got confused before. No, we don't have the dog ever attached to us. It's a safety thing. If there's an emergency, we need to be able to disengage that dog from you. If you're struggling with line handling, we will double line the dog and put a second long line on. It's not something we do an awful lot, but it is the option for it. If your dog's that strong, you need to work with your instructor to work through that to help slow the dog down. But no, we never ever had the dog attached. You've got the dog at 10 meters of line, So what's going to happen is that dog gets full 10 meters and pulls you by the hips at speed. We're going to end up with broken bones somewhere. It's convenient, and I can see why people would want to do it, but it's too much of a health and safety hazard, especially when you get tangled around bushes and things and if you trail a spaniel. But no, but I know what you mean.
Kind of safety sort of measure that you would think that would be, but to be perfectly honest, there's so many ways that you could cause an injury via that. All is just work with your instructor, and if you are worried, like I said, double line, like Kathryn said, which is the instructor has a line on and you have a line on, but it's predominantly you that is going to be working the line in and out. The instructor's just there as an additional tether, a bit like when the children go out with the dogs on the canicross. Obviously they're attached to the dogs, but it's the humans that take the slack. So it's a bit like that, but they're not attached. And then also, just if you never get into the position where you're practicing your line handling on a regular occurrence, it needs to be muscle memory. The rate that you need to be able to get it in and get it out for safety reasons, because it'll either go under your dog, you'll get tangled, you'll have to stop, it'll go around you, go under your legs, through the instructor, etc. The more you practice it, the better you're going to be at it. If you don't practice it and come up with sort of other ways of doing it, you're never going to practice it, so you'll never get better at it. So although this seems like a safety solution, it's just sort of prolonging where you need to get to, if that makes sense. So
Good question.
Yeah.
Right, we're essentially at the end, guys. Have we got any questions so far? Have we got any further questions? Are you all fed up of seeing our faces now? I would like to go to bed, because you have coped through on almost 3 hours of Spanish.
We should have done it in two things.
I didn't think it would actually go on this long, but because there's only like 7 or 8 slides, but actually those slides broke down into 5 or 6 things on each one. Lindsay's Spaniel Trailing Day. Well, Joleen, maybe we could turn that date we're doing into a Spaniel Trailing Day.
That sounds like a plan. Should we do that then?
We do that. But
Yeah.
I'm just going to bob on the last slide, guys. I promise you it's worth it. Sorry, we jumped through a few just to get stuff done.
Yeah, just to be fair, guys, there's so much more that we could have gone into, and we even thought that this was condensed, but you can see the fact that we've gone through it. You just open sort of more and more topics, and me and Kathryn like to chat and discuss stuff that we're passionate about. So like I said, Kathryn's got more experience with Spaniels than I have. My 2 guys they're only 2 and 18 months now.
Oh, it feels like forever though, doesn't it? Just take us, guys. That's all our details. So if you need to find us, that's us. I'm gonna jump on the main bit now and get this chat up. So what we also wanted to say to you guys is that we're here if you need us. Ask us questions, send us videos. We're here to help with everybody's man trailing. It was kind of put together because we were getting asked a lot, and why not put the information on the internet? It's when there's the information there, the more we can share it, the better. And even if you like, yeah, I know that, and you thought, oh God, you're talking absolute rubbish for 3 hours, you might have taken something away, and that's fine. Hopefully you didn't think we were talking rubbish for 3 hours, and I can see people are like, yeah, bye, because you're knackered. We will just say we are releasing some different dates and stuff in the next couple of months, and there's going to be some cool stuff going on. Joleen, I don't know if you want to start with the dates that you're going to release, the weekends, so it's worth hanging around. We will put these dates on our pages though as well.
Yes, just give us 2 seconds, guys, if anyone's interested. So for my guys, I know that the heads are all doing a lot of weekends, but I know that for some reasons people can't travel. So I'm doing some weekenders. So there will be an evening of theory, online theory, and then you'll have 2 days of trailing. I'm going to do the 15th and 16th of April in Birmingham, the 24th and 25th of June in Staffordshire, and then the 30th and the 1st of October in Warwickshire. Now, it's easier for me to probably travel around. It's not a million miles from home, but that should make the weekenders or something. They're not sort of based on any weekenders. It's me just wanting to do a big blast, 2 days of trails. You'll make really great progress in them. It's £175 a team with a £75 deposit. So if you want to get involved in that, just drop me a message on the Carter's Pet Services page or the email. Then Kathryn, you've got your seminar.
Yeah, so at the end of January, 22nd, not the end of the 22nd of January, I've got a seminar for geekery in North Wales in Wrexham. I'm doing an in-person one with sandwiches and bits and bobs on mantrailing theory and scent theory, on stuff with the most up-to-date stuff we're dealing with at the moment, to hopefully help handlers understand how their dog's working a little bit. It's something I'm really passionate about, and it's hard work when we're actually mantrailing to go for information. We haven't always got an extra hour afterwards to talk about scent, so doing a seminar on it. It will be recorded, and there's potential that I will do it elsewhere if it goes well. I just need to do it first, guys. But if you want to jump on that, those dates are on my website. On there, I've also got my weekend with Jerry Moss down in Bedford, midweeker, which is the 7th till 9th of June. Still a few spaces. That's over on Jerry's page on Jerry JK9, JAYK9. And they're good fun. And even if you can't get on my weekend with Jerry, definitely get one of Jolene's weekend, as I'm booking one of hers as well. So I'm just going to come be a punter, and you can pick on me all you want. Yeah, people line, get control of that Spaniel woman. What are you doing with that puppy? So there's definitely some fun, but we put updates all the time, just as seeing it. We are going to do we're doing some collaboration together in February, which are on the website. There's a waiting list. That's actually full, but there is a waiting list. But we are going to do, well, it was going to be an advanced special in Tamworth on the 30th of April, but I think it's going to have to be a Spaniel special. It'll be the 30th of April in Tamworth, so it's a bit more central. I'll be traveling over to Joleen, and that's £80 per person, and we will make it a Spaniel training day now. And we were going to do urban. It'll probably still be an urban setting, but when we do collaborations, you get opportunity to trail with both of us. So you'll get like an AM with me and a PM with Joleen, and we do it together.
I'm laughing because I'm already getting messages to go on the Spaniel waiting list.
Joleen's like, no. So yeah, message one of us. We will sort out the booking. It was something we chatted about, and we only confirmed the date this morning, so we haven't got anything booked. But everything with date wise will pop on our pages either tonight or tomorrow. So if anyone's interested in anything, then definitely have a gander at our pages. Mine's Trailing Canines, and Joleen's Carter's Pet Services. And we're both a bit of fun. I'm just actually going to stop the recording now because I don't think this needs to be on the recording.